The boardroom falls silent as I watch my career implode in slow motion. My presentation, 6 months of work, flickers on the projector screen behind me, but all eyes are locked on Director Harrison as he clears his throat. "I'm afraid we'll be going in a different direction with the Thompson account," he says, not quite meeting my gaze. "And in light of recent developments, we'll be terminating your position effective immediately." My mouth goes dry. I don't understand. The campaign metrics were exceeding projections by 30%. There have been concerns about data manipulation. He slides a folder across the polished table. The evidence is quite compelling. The room spins. I've triple-checked every number, every projection. This isn't possible. Then I see the email printout on top. Correspondence I've never written. Timestamps that don't align with my schedule. Metrics I've never touched. "This isn't mine," I say, my voice sharp enough to make the junior executives flinch. "Someone's altered these reports." Harrison's expression hardens. "Security will escort you to clear out your desk." As I walk past the glass-walled offices, clutching a cardboard box of personal items, my phone buzzes. A text from my father. "Family dinner tonight. Lily has news." Lily, my stepmother. The pieces click together with nauseating clarity. She'd asked about my presentation last week, showing unusual interest in my work. I'd mentioned the secure server passwords, thinking nothing of it. After all, she's family. I drive home in a daze, the box of belongings rattling in my passenger seat. The familiar gates of our family estate mock me with their grandeur. Inside, voices drift from the dining room. Laughter, the clink of wine glasses. "Scarlett!" Lily's perfectly manicured hand waves me over. "You're just in time for my announcement." My father beams at her, while my stepbrother Ryan slouches in his chair, absorbed in his phone. The table is set with the good china, the set my mother left behind. "I've accepted a position on the board of Mitchell Industries," Lily announces, her smile razor sharp. "And with Ethan's support, I'll be overseeing all marketing operations." My father raises his glass. "To new beginnings." "Interesting timing," I say, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. Considering I was just fired over falsified data. Lily's expression doesn't waver. "Oh, darling, I heard about that. Such a shame when young executives try to climb too fast. Sometimes ambition can be destructive." "You would know all about destruction, wouldn't you?" "Scarlett," my father warns, but I'm already pulling out my phone, showing him the timestamps on the altered reports. These were accessed using internal credentials at 3 a.m. last Tuesday. I was in Chicago for the client meeting. But Lily was here, wasn't she? With access to everything she needed. Ryan looks up from his phone, suddenly interested. Lily sets down her wine glass with deliberate care. "Ethan, are you going to let her throw these ridiculous accusations at me? After everything I've done for this family?" My father's face darkens. "Scarlett, that's enough. Lily has proven herself more than capable." "More than capable of sabotage," I cut in. "She's systematically pushing me out, and you're too blind to see it." "I think you should leave," Lily says softly. "You're clearly upset about losing your job, but this behavior is beneath you." I look at my father, waiting for him to defend me, to ask questions, to show any sign of the man who once taught me to fight for the truth. But he just stares at his plate, shoulders rigid. "You're right," I say, my voice ice cold. "This is beneath me, but what comes next won't be." I turn and walk out, leaving behind the sounds of Lily's concerned murmuring and my father's heavy sigh. In my car, I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turn white. They think they've won. They think they've broken me. But they have no idea what I'm capable of when everything I love is threatened. This isn't over. It's barely begun. 3 days after losing my job, I'm sitting in my father's study, staring at financial records that don't add up. The familiar scent of leather and old books feels different now. Tainted, like everything else in this house. "You shouldn't be in here." Ryan's voice startles me. He hovers in the doorway, phone in hand, looking uncertain. "Did Lily send you to spy on me?" He shifts uncomfortably. "She said you've been acting unstable." "Look at this." I turn the laptop screen toward him. $2 million transferred to offshore accounts in the past month. Dad never makes moves like that without board approval. Maybe it's for the new expansion project? Then why are the transactions dated 3 a.m.? Why are they routed through 3 different shell companies? I scroll through the records. And why does every transfer coincide with Lily's late-night meditation sessions? Ryan moves closer, frowning at the screen. Before he can respond, Footsteps echo in the hallway. I quickly close the laptop as my father appears. What are you doing here? His voice carries an edge I've never heard before. Looking for answers, I say, standing. Like why you're letting your wife destroy everything you built. That's enough. He steps between me and the desk. Lily told me about your accusations. I won't have you spreading paranoid theories. Paranoid? I laugh sharply. Check your accounts, Dad. While you've been playing happy families, she's been bleeding the company dry. Get out! His face flushes red. I won't listen to these lies about my wife. Your wife? My voice cracks. What about your daughter? What about... A knock at the door interrupts us. Lily stands there, perfect as always, in her designer dress. Everything all right? I heard raised voices. Everything's fine, my father says, not looking at me. Scarlett was just leaving. Actually, Lily's smile doesn't reach her eyes. I found something interesting in the old storage room. Something about Karen? The name hits like a physical blow. My mother. The one topic we never discuss. What about her? I ask. Just some old letters, quite revealing really, about why she really left. Lily examines her manicure. Would be a shame if they came to light now, wouldn't it? My father's face drains of color. Lily, that's not... I'm protecting our family, darling. She places a hand on his arm. Sometimes that means making difficult choices. I look between them. My father's averted gaze, Lily's triumphant smile, Ryan's confused expression. The pieces shift again, forming a darker picture. You're blackmailing him, I whisper. That's how you've kept him under control. I prefer to think of it as insurance, Lily says softly. Now, about those financial records you were so interested in. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park. I know what happened to Karen. M. Keep your insurance, I say, grabbing my bag. But remember, everything hidden eventually comes to light. Is that a threat? Lily's composure cracks slightly. No. I meet her gaze steadily. It's a promise. I walk out, Ryan's troubled eyes following me. In the hallway, I pause at the family portrait, taken just before my mother disappeared. There's something in her expression I never noticed before. Fear. Another text buzzes. Hurry, not safe to talk long. M. As I drive toward this park, my hands shake on the steering wheel. For years, I accepted the story that my mother abandoned us. But now, the timing of her disappearance, Lily's arrival, those mysterious letters, it's all connected. My father might be too afraid to face the truth, but I'm not. Whatever Lily's hiding about my mother, whatever she's done to my family, I'll expose it all. Even if it means losing everything else in the process. The park looms ahead, empty in the gathering dusk. A lone figure stands by the river, face hidden in shadow. As I park, my phone buzzes one final time. What you're about to learn will change everything. Are you ready? M. I step out of the car, my heart pounding. Ready or not, there's no turning back now. Maya's office feels like a sanctuary compared to the chaos of the past week. She slides a manila folder across her desk, her expression grim. You need to see this. Inside are bank statements, emails, and photographs. My hands freeze on a particular image. Lily, 5 years ago, standing next to my mother. They're arguing outside a lawyer's office. Where did you get these? I have contacts at the firm where your mother used to work, Maya says. Lily wasn't just some random woman your father met. She orchestrated everything. My phone buzzes. Ryan, Dad's in the hospital. Come quick. The emergency room is a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smell. I find Ryan pacing the waiting area, his face pale. They're saying it might be poison. What? His coffee this morning. He started having seizures during a board meeting. Lily emerges from the treatment room, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. The doctors say he'll recover, but she stops when she sees me. You shouldn't be here. Funny thing about poison, I say quietly. It leaves traces. Digital ones too, like search histories and purchase records. Her mask slips for just a second. I don't know what you're implying. I know about the meeting with my mother. I pull out the photograph. Right before she disappeared. Ryan moves closer, staring at the image. Is that... Your father needs rest. Lily cuts in. Not more of your paranoid accusations. Let her speak. Ryan's voice cracks. I found something in your study last night. About Mom's accident. Lily's face hardens. You've been in my private files? The police report, Ryan continues. It wasn't an accident, was it? A doctor approaches before Lily can respond. Mrs. Mitchell, your husband's asking for you. We'll continue this discussion later, Lily says, but her hands shake as she smooths her skirt. Once she's gone, Ryan turns to me. There's more. Dad's been signing documents without reading them. The company's being stripped apart, piece by piece. Show me. In the hospital cafeteria, Ryan pulls up documents on his tablet. Transfer records, property sales, shell companies, all leading back to offshore accounts. She's not just stealing, I realize. She's dismantling everything. But why? My phone lights up with a text from Maya. Found Karen. She's alive. Meeting tonight. I need you to do something, I tell Ryan. Keep Lily occupied. Make her think you're on her side. What are you going to do? Find out why our mother really left. The hospital corridor feels endless as I walk back to my father's room. Through the window, I see Lily bent over his bed, whispering something. His face contorts with fear. My phone buzzes again. An email notification. Anonymous sender, single attachment. Security footage from the night my mother disappeared. My hands tremble as I press play. The video shows the parking garage where Mom's accident happened. But instead of a crash, I see Lily talking to two men. Money changing hands, my mother being forced into a car. Quite the family reunion. Daniel's voice startles me. My ex-boyfriend stands in the shadows, looking exactly as he did 2 years ago when he disappeared. Shame about your father. What are you doing here? Keeping promises. He glances at my phone. I see you got my email. You sent... Lily's not working alone. He steps closer. There's something bigger happening. Something that started long before your mother vanished. Through the window, I watch Lily kiss my father's forehead, her hand lingering near his IV line. Ryan catches my eye from across the room, giving an almost imperceptible nod. Tonight, Daniel says. Midnight, the old boathouse. Bring what you found in your father's study. He walks away, leaving me with the weight of too many secrets. In my father's room, the heart monitor beeps steadily. Lily's perfume lingers in the air like poison. My phone lights up one last time. Maya. Karen says don't trust anyone, even me. I look at my father's vulnerable form, at Ryan's worried face, at Lily's perfectly composed mask. Someone in this hospital is trying to kill my father. Someone made my mother disappear. And someone is about to discover exactly what I'm capable of. The game has changed. It's not just about revenge anymore. It's about survival. The boathouse creaks in the midnight wind. I check my phone. No signal. Perfect place for an ambush, or worse. But Daniel's message about my mother leaves me no choice. You shouldn't have come alone. Maya steps from the shadows, making me jump, especially not after what I found. What are you doing here? Same as you. She holds up a USB drive, following breadcrumbs. Footsteps on the dock. Daniel appears, but he's not alone. A woman stands beside him, face half hidden by a scarf. When she removes it, my breath catches. Hello, Scarlett. My mother's voice is exactly as I remember it. Karen. Maya's tone carries a warning. We agreed. Plans change. My mother moves closer, especially when someone tries to kill my ex-husband. The pieces shift again. Maya knowing where to find evidence. Daniel's convenient reappearance. My mother's perfect timing. How long have you been watching us? I ask. Since Lily made her move on the company. Daniel pulls out a laptop. Show her. Security footage plays. Lily meeting with masked men, exchanging documents. Dates flash by. Last week, last month, 5 years ago. The same men, different locations, always in shadows. They're called the Syndicate, my mother says. They target wealthy families, insert their operatives, drain assets. Lily's one of them. Why are you telling me this now? Because, Maya steps forward, they're not just after money anymore. The poison in your father's coffee, it was a warning. To us. Us? We've been building a case against them, Daniel explains. Your mother Maya, me, we're part of a task force, but Lily discovered our surveillance. The betrayal hits like ice water. You've all been lying to me. We were protecting you, Maya starts, but I cut her off. By watching my family fall apart, by letting Lily destroy everything. Scarlett, my mother reaches for me. I step back. Don't. You disappeared for 5 years. Let me think you abandoned us. If they knew I was investigating them, they would have killed you all. Her voice cracks. I had to stay away. A notification pings on Daniel's laptop. Security footage, live feed from the hospital. Lily enters my father's room, carrying a small vial. Ryan's supposed to be watching him, I say, already running. Scarlett, wait, Maya calls. We have a plan. But I'm already in my car, tires spraying gravel. My phone buzzes with Ryan's text. She knows. Get back here. The hospital corridors blur as I run. In my father's room, Lily stands over his bed, her back to the door. Ryan's nowhere in sight. Step away from him. My voice doesn't shake. Lily turns, smiling. I wondered when they'd tell you the truth. About your mother's little crusade, about Maya's real job. Where's Ryan? Safe, eh? For now. She holds up the vial. Unlike your father, if you don't listen carefully. They have evidence. Everything you've done, they have nothing. Her smile widens. But I have this, and a choice for you to make. My father stirs, his eyes flickering open. Scarlett, here's the deal, Lily says softly. Walk away. Let the syndicate finish what they started. Your father lives, Ryan stays safe, and your mother's task force remains intact. Or push harder and watch everything you love disappear, starting right now. She moves the vial toward my father's IV line. Our eyes lock, a silent battle of wills. In my pocket, my phone vibrates, a message from an unknown number. Trust no one, especially those closest to you. My father's monitor beeps steadily. Lily's hand hovers near the IV. Somewhere in this hospital, Ryan needs help. And somewhere in the night, my mother, Maya, and Daniel are executing a plan I know nothing about. The choice isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about who to trust when every truth has become a lie. Time's up, Lily whispers. What's it going to be? The vial glints under fluorescent lights, holding all our fates in its glass prison. And I realize, sometimes the most dangerous move isn't choosing sides. It's changing the game entirely. The storage unit's metal door groans open, revealing stacks of carefully labeled boxes. Ryan shifts nervously beside me, checking his phone again. Lily's still in her board meeting, he says. We have 20 minutes, Max. I pull out the key my mother gave me, the one she'd hidden before disappearing. The lock on the filing cabinet clicks open, revealing folders dating back 6 years. Here, Ryan hands me a flash drive. I copied Dad's computer files like you asked, but Scarlett, there's something else. Before he can continue, my phone buzzes. Maya. Abort, Lily's heading your way. We need to go. Wait. Ryan grabs a folder, his face pale. Look at this. The documents inside make my blood run cold. Transfer records, all bearing my father's signature, but the dates are wrong. They're dated 3 weeks from now. They're going to kill him, Ryan whispers. Once these transfers clear, footsteps echo outside. We freeze as voices approach. Lily's distinct laugh, accompanied by unfamiliar men. Hide, I mouth to Ryan, shoving him behind a stack of boxes. The voices stop right outside our unit. The girl's becoming a problem, a man says, like her mother. I can handle Scarlett, Lily responds. Once Ethan signs the final papers, no more delays. The syndicate wants this finished. I edge closer to the door, phone recording. Ryan's breathing sounds too loud in the confined space. And the boy? Another voice asks. Ryan's harmless, Lily says. Besides, accidents happen in boarding schools all the time. My hand clenches. Ryan's face goes white. Just get it done, the first man orders. Tonight. Their footsteps fade. When I'm sure they're gone, Ryan emerges, shaking. She's planning to send me away? Not if I can help it. I check the time. We need to move fast. My phone buzzes again. Daniel. Found Karen's evidence. Meeting at the marina. 1 hour. I'm coming with you, Ryan says. No, go to the hospital. Stay with Dad. Don't let Lily near him. But trust me. The marina parking lot is empty except for 2 cars. Maya's and an unfamiliar black SUV. Daniel waits by the dock, a briefcase in hand. Where's my mother? Change of plans. He opens the briefcase. Karen wanted you to have these first. Inside are photos. Lily with different men, different names, different families. All wealthy, all now bankrupt or dead. She's done this before, Maya says, stepping from the shadows. Multiple times. The syndicate's cleanup crew, Daniel adds. They send her in to destroy families from the inside. A text from Ryan makes my phone light up. Dad's asking for his lawyer. Lily's here. We need to move now, Maya urges. Before she. Headlights sweep across the dock. 3 black cars pull in, blocking the exit. Run, Daniel shouts, shoving the briefcase into my hands. Gunshots crack through the night. I sprint toward the boats, Maya close behind. More shots. Daniel cries out, "Keep going!" Maya pushes me forward. "Get to the yacht!" I reach the familiar shape of my father's boat, fumbling with the key. Behind me, Maya screams. When I turn, she's being dragged away by masked figures. "Maya! Go!" she yells. "It's not what you think. Don't trust." A hand clamps over her mouth. The briefcase feels heavy with secrets as I start the engine, my friend's warning echoing in my head. My phone buzzes one last time. Ryan. "Dad signed something." Lily's smiling. "Hurry." The yacht pulls away from the dock as more shots ring out. In the distance, sirens wail. Maya's warning tangles with Lily's threats, Daniel's revelations, my mother's secrets. Everyone claims to be protecting me, but they're all hiding something. And now Maya's captured. Ryan's in danger, and my father's signing his life away. The coastline shrinks behind me as I open the briefcase again. A final photo slips out. My mother and Lily together, years before any of this began. Both wearing syndicate rings. The truth hits like a physical blow. I'm not just fighting Lily. I'm fighting my own mother, too. And time is running out for everyone I love. The hospital room feels different at midnight. Machines beep in the darkness as I watch my father's chest rise and fall. Ryan's text from an hour ago still burns on my phone screen. Maya's dead. They found her body in the marina. A soft knock makes me turn. Daniel stands in the doorway, arm in a sling. "We need to talk." "About how you knew my mother was in the syndicate?" My voice sounds hollow. "Or about Maya? About how we can still save your father?" He closes the door. "The syndicate's meeting tonight. All of them, including Lily and Karen." "Why should I trust you?" "Because Maya died trying to get you this." He slides a phone across the table. Maya's phone. "Watch the last video." The footage shows Maya in a dark room. "Scarlett, if you're seeing this, I'm dead. But I found something. The syndicate isn't just after your family's money. They're after..." The video cuts off with sounds of breaking glass and screaming. "Where was this taken?" "The old Mitchell factory." Daniel checks his watch. "The meeting starts in 30 minutes. My father stirs, eyes flickering open. "Scarlett?" "I'm here, Dad." "Don't..." He struggles to focus. "Don't trust..." The heart monitor starts beeping faster. A nurse rushes in, pushing us aside. More alarm sound. "He's crashing!" she shouts. "Code blue!" Security guards appear, escorting us out. Through the chaos, I glimpse Lily by the nurse's station, pocketing something small in glass. "Another dose," Daniel whispers. "They're finishing what they started." My phone buzzes. "Ryan. Found proof. Lily's office. Hurry." "Go," Daniel says. "I'll watch your father." The drive to Mitchell Industries takes forever. Ryan meets me in the parking garage, holding a USB drive. "Look what I found in Lily's safe." He plugs it into his phone. Financial records going back 20 years. Mom's name is all over them. The documents show a pattern. Families targeted, fortunes drained, deaths made to look like accidents. And at the center of it all, 2 names, Karen Mitchell and Lily Thompson. "There's more," Ryan says. "Tonight's meeting? It's not just about Dad. They're voting on the next target." Footsteps echo in this garage. We duck behind a pillar as Lily walks past, talking on her phone. "It's done," she says. "Ethan won't survive the night, and Scarlett, she'll be dealt with at the meeting." Ryan grabs my arm. "We have to stop them." "No." I hand him the car keys. "Get these records to the police. I'm going to the factory." "Scarlett." Maya died for this. I won't let her death mean nothing. The factory looms ahead, its abandoned shell perfect for secret meetings. Through broken windows, I see figures gathering in the main floor office. I slip inside through a side door, staying in the shadows. Voices drift down from above. "The Mitchell girl is becoming a liability," someone says, like her mother before her. "Karen knew the risks," Lily responds. "She chose wrong. And now her daughter will pay the price." A hand grabs my shoulder. I spin, ready to fight, but it's my mother. "You shouldn't be here," she hisses. "Like you shouldn't have been in the syndicate? Everything I did was to protect you." By helping them kill Dad? Footsteps approach. Karen pushes me into a closet, closing the door just as Lily's voice fills the hallway. "Karen, The board is waiting. Coming. Through the slats, I watch them walk away. My phone vibrates. Daniel, your father's dying. Whatever you're going to do it now. The USB drive feels heavy in my pocket. Upstairs, the syndicate discusses my family's fate. In the hospital, my father fights for his life. And somewhere in the city, Ryan races against time with evidence that could destroy them all. But first, I have to survive the next hour. I step out of the closet, Maya's last moments playing in my mind. The truth about my mother burns like acid. Lily's voice drifts down again, discussing the next family they'll destroy. It ends tonight, one way or another, even if it costs me everything. The syndicate's boardroom falls silent as I push through the doors. 12 faces turn toward me. 11 strangers and Lily, her perfect mask finally cracking. I believe this meeting's about me. I drop Maya's phone on the polished table. And about how many families you've destroyed. Scarlett, my mother steps forward. Don't. Quiet, Karen. A man at the head of the table raises his hand. Let's hear what the girl has to say. I'll make it simple. I activate Maya's phone, playing the security footage of Lily's confession. Release my father's assets or this goes public. Lily laughs, but it sounds hollow. You really think... I'm not finished. I pull out Ryan's USB drive. This contains 20 years of your operation. Every family, every murder, every cent stolen. Ryan's already sent copies to the FBI. The man, clearly the leader, stands. Karen, control your daughter. She can't. I meet his gaze. Because she helped destroy those families too, didn't she, Mom? My mother's face goes white. Before she can respond, my phone buzzes. Daniel, police are here. Get out now. But Lily moves faster than expected. Her hand whips out, a familiar glass vial appearing. Nobody's going anywhere. That's what you used on Dad? I step closer. The same poison? Insurance. She backs toward the door. The syndicate protects its own. Like you protected Maya? Something flickers in her eyes. Maya was weak. She chose the wrong side. She chose the truth. I advance another step, like Dad did when he finally saw through you. The boardroom erupts in movement. The leader barks orders, members scrambling for exits. Sirens wail in the distance. Karen, Lily shouts, deal with this. My mother reaches for me, but her hands shake. Scarlett, please. Everything I did was to protect me. I knock her hand away. You watched Lily poison Dad. You helped them target innocent families. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Police sirens grow closer. That's why I made sure they had your confession too. Lily lunges for the door, but I'm ready. We collide, the vial flying from her hand. It shatters, liquid seeping into the carpet. You're just like your mother, she spits, struggling against my grip. Too weak to do what's necessary. No. I pin her against the wall as footsteps thunder up the stairs. I'm strong enough to stop it. The doors burst open. Police flood in, weapons drawn. Through the chaos, I see my mother slip away, but her syndicate ring lies discarded on the table. A choice, finally made too late. It's over, I tell Lily as handcuffs click around her wrists. She smiles, that perfect mask one last time. Is it? Your father's still dying. Your mother's gone. You've lost everything. My phone buzzes again. Ryan. Dad's awake. The antidote worked. We got them, Scarlett. No. I show her the message. I saved what matters. As they lead her away, I notice something in her eyes I've never seen before. Fear. Not of arrest or punishment, but of facing a world where her perfect lies no longer hold power. The boardroom empties, leaving me alone with the evidence of so many shattered lives. Maya's phone still glows on the table, her final warning frozen on screen. Another message from Ryan. Dad's asking for you. And Scarlett, there's something else you need to see. I pocket Maya's phone, leaving my mother's ring behind. Outside, red and blue lights paint the night. Somewhere in the city, my father waits with answers I'm not sure I'm ready to hear. But that's the thing about revenge. It never ends quite how you expect. Sometimes justice comes not from destroying your enemies, but from choosing to save what they tried to take from you. I step into the night, leaving the syndicate's shadows behind. Whatever truth waits at the hospital, whatever price I'll pay for tonight's justice, one thing is certain. The game of masks is finally over, and we all have to face what lies beneath. The morning sun streams through my father's hospital window as I place Maya's phone on his bedside table. He looks smaller somehow, but his eyes are clear for the first time in months. I should have seen it sooner, he says, touching the screen where Maya's final warning plays. Should have protected you both. You were trying. I adjust his blanket. In your own way. Ryan bursts in, waving a newspaper. The headline screams, Syndicate exposed, wealthy families targeted in decades-long scheme. They found Mom, he says. She left evidence at every safe house. Turned herself in this morning. Dad's hand trembles on the blanket. Karen always kept records. Insurance, she called it. There's something else. Ryan pulls out an envelope. This was in Lily's office safe. It's addressed to you, Scarlett. Inside is a single photograph. Lily and my mother, much younger, standing over a hospital bed. My birthday. On the back in my mother's handwriting. The cycle ends here. She wasn't just targeting Dad, I realize. She was finishing what Mom started. But failed to complete, Daniel says from the doorway. His arm's still in a sling, but he stands straighter now. Karen couldn't destroy your family, so she sent Lily to finish the job. Why? Because of me, Dad whispers. I discovered their first operation. Karen had a choice, the syndicate or her family. She chose wrong. And Lily? Wanted revenge for her own family's destruction. Daniel hands me another file. The syndicate's first target, the Thompsons. The pieces click into place. My mother's disappearance, Lily's perfect timing, Maya's discovery, all part of a revenge plot decades in the making. The police found this in Maya's apartment. Ryan holds out a sealed envelope. She knew, Scarlett. She died protecting you from both of them. My hands shake as I open Maya's last message. Inside, a simple note. Some cycles are meant to be broken. Choose better than they did. A nurse appears with discharge papers. As Dad signs them, his wedding ring catches the light. A simple gold band that survived 2 toxic marriages and decades of lies. What happens now? Ryan asks. We rebuild, Dad says. Together. And Mom? We'll face justice, I say. Like Lily. Like all of them. Daniel lingers after Ryan takes Dad to the car. The task force found something else. Files about other families, other children being groomed for recruitment. It never really ends, does it? No. He touches Maya's phone. But we can change how we fight it. Outside, cherry blossoms scatter across the hospital parking lot. Dad and Ryan wait by the car, both bearing scars of betrayal but standing taller for having survived it. My phone buzzes. An unknown number. A text appears. You're more like me than you know. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Okay. I delete the message without responding. Some questions don't need answers. Some cycles end not with revenge, but with the choice to walk away. Ready? Ryan calls. I pocket Maya's phone, leaving my mother's photograph behind. The morning sun feels warmer somehow, like it's burning away the shadows of the past year. Dad opens the car door, then hesitates. Scarlett, about everything that happened. I know. I take his hand, feeling the strength returning to his grip. Let's go home. As we drive away, I catch a glimpse of a familiar figure watching from the hospital entrance. Daniel, already on the phone, likely coordinating with the task force. Some battles never end, but you can choose which ones are worth fighting. Maya understood that. In the end, she chose to break the cycle, even at the cost of her life. The real victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in refusing to become them. The city's skyline spreads before us, familiar but somehow new. Somewhere out there, my mother sits in a cell, Lily faces justice, and the syndicate's shadows recede. But here in this car with what remains of my family, I finally understand what Maya meant in her last message. Some legacies are meant to be broken, and some are worth rebuilding from the ashes they leave behind.
Hey, why don't you marry me? I'm a better match for you than that plain Emily Wright. As she spoke, my sister draped her arm over my husband's shoulder, sidling up to him. Watching this, the restraint I'd been holding onto snapped. I felt the tightly wound thread within me break. Stop messing around. You've always been like this, I shouted, lunging at my sister. At that moment, she toppled over ungracefully. Still in that awkward position, she opened her eyes wide. A moment of silence fell. This is the story of the ending my atrocious sister and I reached. My name is Emily, 27 years old. After graduating from the literature department of a state university, I've been working as a librarian in a public library. During my lunch break, I checked my smartphone and found a message from my sister Michelle, who is a year older than me. I'm going to use your blue sandals. They still look like new, but that's fine, right? I let out a sigh. My sister has always been like this since we were kids. Whenever I had something she perceived as better than hers, she quickly coveted it, got bored, and then dumped it back on me. Even from a family member's perspective, my sister is beautiful. I remember when we were kids, she was adored by adults and often compared to a French doll. She went to a prestigious private university on a recommendation and even won a beauty pageant there. Now she's leveraging her beauty, working as a receptionist at a well-known company, living a life straight out of a fairy tale. In contrast, I'm truly plain. I have a very typical American face, and people often tell me, "Emily, you're like a traditional doll." Maybe it's because of my sister's constant bullying, but I'm often told that I'm very shy and introverted. Since childhood, while my sister played with dolls, I was the kind of kid who would sit alone and quietly read a book. But that's fine with me. I want to live a life surrounded by books. I've studied hard with that sole intention, and now I'm working as a librarian, a job I've always dreamed of. Processing checkouts with barcodes, finding books that users are searching for, it's perfect. While working at the library, I often remember something from my high school days. I attended the same high school as my sister, and I was exhausted by remarks and stares like, "Oh, is this what Michelle's sister is like?" My only joy was writing book reviews of my favorite books as part of the library committee activities. Most regular high school students, busy with clubs and romance, would not pay attention to such things, but I kept writing, hoping that they would understand the charm of my favorite books, even though I knew that no one would read them. However, there was just one person who would enthusiastically read my reviews. This male student would borrow the books that I reviewed one after another. I felt a sense of validation, which made me happy. He was a year ahead of me in school, and our relationship was nothing more than that of a student and a librarian. Due to my introverted personality, we never spoke except during the borrowing procedures. Despite this, I always remembered his name on the library card. I wondered how he was doing now. Does he still like reading books? Occasionally, I thought about him, the person who made me continue to love books. Then one day, a marriage proposal came in for my older sister. At 28, my sister Michelle was of marriageable age, so it was only natural for such talks to come up. What, a blind date with this guy? Michelle exaggeratedly threw the blind date photos and the man's profile on the table. The loud sound startled me as I was eating. "Well, what kind of person is he?" my mother asked. "He's just this chubby and nerdy-looking guy, and he's currently a temp. Why do I have to go on a blind date with such a guy?" "If you don't like him, just reject him," I said. "But he's related to some executive at our client's company. I can't just reject him. It's terrible." Michelle made a troubled face, then suddenly her expression brightened. "Oh, I know. Emily, you should go on the blind date." I was shocked at her suggestion. Seeing my wide-eyed surprise, Michelle hurriedly explained, "You're a respectable nerd yourself, right? You might hit it off with him. No matter how I look at it, he's not my type, but he might be perfect for you since you're not exactly a looker. So could you please take my place this weekend?" "What are you talking about? I don't want to do it either, and it would be rude to the other party. And how should I explain me going in your place?" "It'll work out as long as you go on the date. But don't you dare tarnish my reputation." Michelle forcefully shoved the open blind date photo and profile in my direction. Looking at them, I let out a surprised sound. "What? Do you have a problem?" "No, not at all. Thanks, Michelle. I'll take the match," I replied. "Really? You actually like that chubby nerd? Well, I'll hand him over. I'm excited to see the nerdy couple in action," Michelle teased. I chose to ignore Michelle's mocking tone and continue to focus on the blind date photo and the man's profile. On the day of the date, I first apologized to the man for Michelle's rudeness and then expressed my interest in getting to know him better. The man across from me was indeed chubby and had a distinctly nerdy vibe, but he still seemed familiar. As it turned out, he was the same person who used to borrow books based on my reviews. He looked at me and asked softly, Were you by any chance the librarian at our high school?" "Yes, I was. I remember you too," I responded. From that point on, we connected over our shared memories of high school and our love for books. This marked the beginning of our relationship. Thomas was in the same school year as Michelle, but she didn't seem to remember him at all. During one of our dates, Thomas said to me, "Honestly, Emily, if Michelle had shown up, I would have turned her down. Her reputation precedes her," Thomas admitted. "Given who I am, I guess Michelle would have probably rejected me first," I replied with a rueful smile. "I'm truly sorry about what happened with my sister, but I was really happy to see you again, Thomas. I think you're wonderful just the way you are. If you're worried about your appearance, how about we try losing some weight together?" "You're right, I've been so absorbed in my work that I've neglected exercising and my appearance. I'll make an effort so you won't feel disappointed in me." "I'm glad to hear that, but you should know I would never judge you based on your appearance." Our conversations flowed easily, and our dates were delightful. Eventually, Thomas proposed, and we decided to marry. Although my sister, who said, "I've seen that guy before," didn't attend the wedding, our families came together in a warm and supportive atmosphere. Afterward, we found a new home and began our life together. On the day of our wedding, honestly, Emily, having a wedding in a church is so typical of you. And that dress, it makes you look like a real American doll, my sister mocked as usual. "Can we please put a stop to the jabs for today? We're about to meet the family," I said, feeling disheartened by her remarks, even on my wedding day. Thomas and his family arrived soon after. "Good morning, we're excited for today," they greeted warmly. When Thomas, dressed impeccably in his suit, made his entrance, my sister's eyes widened in surprise. "What?" she exclaimed softly. It was clear why she was astonished. Thomas had put in significant effort to improve his appearance alongside me, and he now looked strikingly handsome. Before the ceremony began, my sister leaned in and whispered, "He looks nothing like the photo from before." Thomas worked hard on himself. He was already handsome, I replied with a smile. In the photo, Thomas had looked dull due to being overweight and having a poor haircut. I even wondered if he'd had plastic surgery. But it was wonderful that someone as beautiful as you could marry a man who now looked like a movie star. Despite enduring my sister's sarcasm, we managed to get through the wedding ceremony. We had a small, intimate reception at the church with only our closest loved ones. Just as we were about to leave, basking in our joy, something unexpected happened. "Hello, Thomas. Thanks for marrying my ugly little sister." My sister, clearly intoxicated, approached us. "Emily isn't ugly at all. Thank you for coming today. Shouldn't you be heading home?" I suggested, but my sister ignored me. "So, Thomas, you've changed your appearance, but what about your job? I heard you're just a temp." "Yes, I'm currently working as a temp." "Oh, I can't stand having a temp as a husband. I'm dating a startup CEO now. I might get married soon." "Congratulations," Thomas said politely. "Hey, sister," Thomas gently stopped me from responding and shook his head slightly. "Thank you for coming today. Please be careful on your way home." My sister, with a final remark of "be very happy," left. "I'm really sorry about my sister," I said to Thomas. "It's all right. People like her won't change no matter what you say. But Emily, you've been through a lot. Let's focus on our happiness from now on." "Thank you, Thomas." And so, our married life together began. Thomas was working as a temp while pursuing his dream of becoming a novelist. His love for reading began with book reviews I wrote back in high school, which inspired him to start writing. Although he had only published a few pieces in literary magazines so far, it was still an impressive accomplishment. While he was earning from his manuscripts, he admitted that financial stability was still a concern, which is why he balanced his temp job with his writing. "Thomas, I have a job too, and we have some savings. Why don't you focus solely on your writing?" I suggested. "Emily, you're always so supportive." "Thank you. I'll give it my all," he replied. With that, Thomas left his temp job and devoted himself fully to his writing. Though it wasn't easy, I found joy in watching him immerse himself in his work, and that passion kept us going. One day, we received a call from my sister Michelle. She was engaged to the startup CEO she had mentioned before. "Next week, he's coming over to meet the family before the wedding. You should come too. I'd prefer not to introduce him to you and your jobless husband, but it would be awkward if you weren't there. Please make sure you dress appropriately." Despite my irritation at Michelle's attitude, I knew we had to attend her engagement event. Thomas and I prepared to join the family gathering. "I'm sorry you have to miss your important event that day, Thomas," I said. "It's okay, Emily. She's your sister," Thomas reassured me. When we arrived at the meeting, Michelle greeted us with her usual smug expression. "Welcome, the antisocial couple. Please be nice to my fiancé, Michelle greeted us with her usual sarcasm. Ignoring her jabs, we entered the restaurant and exchanged pleasantries with Michelle's fiancé. He was a strikingly handsome man, quite the opposite of Thomas, but he did seem competent in his field. I'm Emily, Michelle's sister. It's nice to meet you. And I'm Thomas, Emily's husband. Nice to meet you, Thomas added. Michelle's fiancé, Larry, returned our greetings with a polite nod. Nice to meet you too. I did my best to overlook Michelle, who was standing next to him with a self-satisfied grin. Just then, Thomas's phone rang. I'm sorry, I need to take this call. It's important, he said, stepping outside. As Thomas left the room, I couldn't shake my anxiety despite being surrounded by our parents, Michelle, and her fiancé. My thoughts were elsewhere. Soon, Thomas returned, looking flustered, and leaned in to whisper something in my ear. Really? Congratulations, Thomas. That's incredible, I exclaimed, unable to contain my excitement. What's going on? Is this the right time for such news? My mother asked, looking surprised. Thomas's novel won a major literary award and is going to be adapted into a movie, I announced. Is that true? Congratulations, Thomas, my mother said, clearly thrilled. Yes, that's wonderful news, Thomas. All the support Emily gave you has definitely paid off. Our parents beamed with joy. Congratulations, Thomas. I'm so happy to hear this. Larry chimed in, applauding. Let's toast to celebrate. I'm sorry, but I need to handle some interviews about the award, Thomas said. All right, I suppose that's all for now, my mom began to say, but then something unexpected happened. Michelle, who had been sitting next to Larry, suddenly stood up and walked over to us, positioning herself between Thomas and me. Hey sis, what are you? Be quiet, you ugly thing, Michelle cut me off sharply. Michelle's voice was icy. Thomas, why don't we get married? I'm sure I'm a better match for a successful award-winning author like you than someone like Emily, she said, placing a hand on Thomas's shoulder and leaning in close. I felt like everything was falling apart. Michelle always wants whatever I have and discards it when she grows bored. She consistently belittles both Thomas and me, and I've put up with it because she's my sister. But this was the last straw. I felt a breaking point within me. Enough, Michelle. You've always been like this, I shouted, moving toward her. Startled, Michelle stumbled and fell awkwardly. Thomas, who had been leaning on Michelle, quickly stepped back. Michelle landed on the carpet, her eyes wide with shock. I stood frozen. What are you doing? That's what I should be asking, Thomas said with a frigid tone. He looked down at Michelle with disdain. What were you thinking? I was just offering to marry you, Michelle stammered. Even if I were the last man on earth, I'd still say no. Emily is the only one for me for life. What? What's so special about Emily? I'm prettier. I have a better figure. Emily is not just more beautiful on the outside, but also on the inside. She's been my steadfast support through everything. That's why I've achieved what I have, something you could never do. Thomas walked over to me and put his arm around my shoulders. As he did, my anger toward Michelle began to melt away, replaced by warm tears streaming down my face. What the hell? After all my advances, you still rejected me. Michelle's face flushed bright red, and her voice trembled with anger. Michelle, what on earth are you doing? Do you even realize what kind of occasion this is? Isn't Larry supposed to be your fiancé? Our parents, finally coming to their senses, quickly reprimanded her. As if awakening from a daze, Michelle dashed over to Larry. I'm sorry, Larry. I guess it has to be you after all. Enough. Just stop talking, Larry said, straightening his tie. Who would want to marry a woman who throws herself at a married man during a meet and greet? Let's call off this engagement. I'm sure you understand why. Our parents went pale and nodded in agreement, unable to say anything. Wait a minute, Larry. You can't just back out now. I've already told everyone we're getting married. This will cause a mess if you back out, Michelle shouted, but Larry remained calm. I think it's time for me to leave. Congratulations again, Thomas. Best wishes. With that, Larry left the room, and we could only bow our heads in silence. Wait, Larry, Larry. Michelle's frantic cries echoed through the restaurant. I'm appalled. Don't show your face around here for a while. Our parents, casting one last contemptuous glance at Michelle, left the restaurant as well. Emily, let's go home. I tightened my grip on Thomas's hand as he reached for mine. Turning around, I saw my sister slumped in a daze. A few months later, after her engagement with Larry ended, my sister initially seemed despondent but is now fervently searching for a new partner. However, she's only pursuing high-profile men and seems surprised by their reaction to her mercenary approach. With age starting to diminish her beauty, she may struggle to find a suitable match. As for us, Thomas, who was busy with award ceremonies, interviews, and film releases, is now focused on his next project. He has always been kind to me, but he's now celebrated as a devoted husband, often sharing stories about me during his interviews. As I support my growing belly from pregnancy, I am committed to supporting Thomas in all his endeavors. I'm Emily, a 35-year-old full-time homemaker. Just the other day, I gave birth to twins John and Sarah. The labor was grueling, spanning 2 days from contractions to delivery, and I was physically exhausted. However, the moment I heard their healthy first cries, all my fatigue vanished. Initially, we had planned to return to my parents' home, but a month before my due date, my mother was hospitalized for surgery. My parents were eagerly anticipating our arrival with the babies. My mom even reassured me that despite her recovery, it would be okay for us to come over. However, we prioritized her health and decided to stay put, choosing to manage on our own with my husband's help. But instead of enjoying the early days of parenthood, we were blindsided by an unexpected ordeal. What follows is the story of the intense harassment I faced during that time. It was the third morning after I returned to our apartment with the twins. Suddenly, the intercom rang loudly, startling me. Who could it be at this early hour? Peering through the peephole, I saw my mother-in-law standing outside. What? My mother-in-law? Why? I quickly unlocked the door, and she barged in as soon as it opened. The commotion woke up John, and his cries soon stirred Sarah. The babies had cried a lot the previous night, and they had just fallen asleep when my mother-in-law's abrupt entrance disrupted their rest. She had taken a taxi over, and I couldn't turn her away. I headed to the kitchen to prepare some tea and snacks. Oh my, what a mess. I can't believe my son is living in such conditions. Emily, you hadn't been slacking on your chores just because you had a baby, right? My mother-in-law sounded like the stereotypical nagging character from a TV drama, running her finger along the windowsills to check for dust. I'm sorry, but they cried so much last night that I hardly slept. I'll clean up when they calm down, I said, trying to console the crying twins. She swatted my hand away, took the babies, and said, I'll take care of the twins. Sleepless night or not, you shouldn't slack off. Start your house chores early if you want to be a good wife. Despite my exhaustion, she insisted I start housework immediately. No matter how much I tried to explain, she wouldn't listen and focus solely on the twins. Reluctantly, I prepared some formula milk to give her, only to hear, What? You're feeding them formula? Any mother would breastfeed. What kind of unloving parent are you? Her words struck me deeply, hitting the very thing I was most self-conscious about. I nearly started crying. Holding back tears, I did as she demanded and began cleaning the room. Although she had said she would take care of the babies, she merely soothed them casually. When their diapers needed changing, she seemed disgusted and called me in the middle of my chores to do it. I couldn't make any progress with the housework and couldn't understand why she had even come over. Moreover, for the next 2 months, she came over almost every day, half-heartedly soothing the babies and constantly complaining about me. This time was nothing but pain as I endured her incessant criticisms. I wanted to talk to my husband about it, but he was always exhausted after long days at work, so I never found the opportunity. For 2 months, I put up with her snide remarks. When she finally told me she wouldn't be coming anymore, I thought I was free. But to my surprise, she suddenly held out her hand and said, Hey, pay me quickly, 2 months' worth of transportation expenses and thanks for helping with child care. It's normal, right? Unbelievable. She was demanding both travel expenses and a thank you payment. I snapped at her words. What are you talking about? When did I ask for your help? If I had asked, it would be a different story, but I never did. In fact, your presence for the past 2 months has been nothing but unpleasant. Please don't come here anymore. Saying that, I kicked my mother-in-law out of the house. Immediately after, I packed our things and took my twins back to my childhood home. I felt guilty burdening my mother, but I couldn't find peace if I stayed there. On the other hand, my mother-in-law went and spilled everything to my father-in-law and husband, painting herself as the victim. She claimed that despite all her efforts, I had spoken harshly to her. When my husband came home to find us missing, he was taken aback. Upon hearing the situation from me, he turned pale and stormed off to his parents' house. The next day, my father-in-law, who had only heard my mother-in-law's side of the story, turned white as a sheet when he heard what my husband had to say. "Oh no, what have you done, dear?" My father-in-law suddenly turned on my mother-in-law, his face a mask of fury. He is usually a mild-mannered man who rarely gets angry. Even my husband had never seen him so mad. My husband was at a loss for words, and my mother-in-law was flustered. "What? Why are you so mad? Isn't she the one at fault? After all, I went out of my way to reduce her burden of childcare, even spending on travel expenses. Why should I be the one getting scolded?" She argued that she had been considerate of me and insisted she did nothing wrong. "No, you don't understand anything. Do you know who her grandfather is?" My father-in-law, trembling with anger, stared at her with wide eyes. "Who? You mean the scary-looking old man who came to the wedding? I remember you bowing and scraping to him, but what about him? Don't tell me you're being threatened by that old man." "No, that man is the chairman of my company." When she heard those words, my mother-in-law let out an unintentional "what?" As it turns out, my grandpa is the chairman of a major corporation. My wedding was quite a large affair, with several CEOs of famous companies in attendance. Grandpa is strict with both himself and others, not one to laugh or engage in pleasurable conversation much, but he dotes on me, his granddaughter. Every time we met, he'd buy me expensive toys or take me to upscale restaurants. When I got married, I later heard from Grandma that Grandpa was so happy he cried, which surprised everyone. Given how much Grandpa dotes on me, he would definitely not stay silent if he knew about what my mother-in-law had done. Under normal circumstances, one would already be scared stiff just by that. But there was another reason why my father-in-law didn't want this getting out to Grandpa. I was on the cusp of either getting a promotion to a managerial position or not. If I became a manager, my salary would significantly increase. It was a crucial time for me to give my best, and yet, without understanding how I felt, my mother-in-law stirred up this mess. What on earth was she thinking? My father-in-law couldn't care less about me right now. All he was thinking about was his promotion rather than his family. My husband, who knew his father's true intentions, seemed deeply disappointed that he didn't consider the twins and me. Even though it was his own parent, he said, "Enough is enough. I'm disappointed in my dad, who only thinks about himself, and shocked at my mom, who's been bullying my wife. Stay out of our lives." Hearing her son's words of disarmament, my mother-in-law rushed towards my husband with incredible force. "Don't joke around. You're the heir to this family. I won't let you abandon this house. I'm going to go to Emily's place and talk some sense into her. She's our daughter-in-law, after all. She needs to handle the household properly," my mother-in-law declared. Upon hearing this, my father-in-law said, "You're not planning on barging into Emily's parents' house, are you? Don't do anything rash. I'll lose my chances of a promotion if you interfere." My husband, stunned by the exchange, left his family home without saying another word. He walked to my parents' house, explained what had happened, and apologized. His face was more sad than angry. "I can't believe my own parents are like this. I'm sorry." In response, my parents didn't say much. "Come on, let's have dinner since you're here," they offered. "That's right, James. You can stay here for the night if you'd like. Our house is close to your apartment. Just bring a change of clothes." At first, my husband hesitated, but after some thought and feeling the need to relax with the twins, he decided to stay. It had been a while since we had a calm family moment. Seeing my husband cuddle our crying twins was quite endearing. When it came time to sleep, the twins were nestled between us. I wish we could always enjoy such peaceful moments, but I knew my mother-in-law wouldn't stay silent. Deep down, I feared she might show up suddenly. But no one could have anticipated how quickly she would strike. The next day, while my parents were at work, the doorbell rang incessantly. I had a sinking feeling about it. Peering at the intercom, I was shocked to see my mother-in-law standing outside, unannounced. "Open the door. I know you're in there. Give me back my grandchildren," she shouted, banging on the door. My mother-in-law rang the intercom repeatedly while banging on the door, and the twins' cries were nearly driving me to the edge. Then someone unexpectedly opened the door for me. "Finally, you opened the door. Now quickly hand over the twins' toe." "Wait, who are you?" The person who opened the door was my grandfather. "Who do you think you are, banging on someone's door like this?" "How rude," he said, his voice stern. Whether he was angry or not, my grandfather spoke with a commanding presence that left my mother-in-law dumbfounded and speechless. Wait a minute, you can't be the chairman my husband mentioned, can you? My mother-in-law asked, her voice trembling. Ha! Oh, now I remember. Are you James' mother-in-law? I didn't recognize you because you didn't introduce yourself at the wedding. My mother-in-law had been entirely against our marriage. She felt as though she was losing the son she had raised so carefully and adamantly refused to attend the wedding. However, the people around her managed to persuade her to come, though I heard she didn't greet any of my relatives and remained in the waiting room with a sullen expression. It's no wonder my grandpa didn't recognize her. When he realized who she was, his face grew even more intimidating, and he stared at her, who was now visibly trembling. I had previously told my grandfather everything I had been through. He had likely anticipated my mother-in-law might try to force her way in, which is probably why he had been staying here for a while. Of course, the real reason he had come was to see the grandchildren, but he hadn't expected such an aggressive intrusion. I didn't come here to bother you, Emily. I just came to see the twins because you brought them here without telling me. It's cruel not to inform me, she insisted, claiming she had only come to visit the twins and not to harass me. Yet her actions, banging on the door, pressing the intercom repeatedly, and demanding her grandchildren, spoke otherwise. Is that so? But didn't you just demand that my grandfather return my children to you? Since when did they become your possession? My mother-in-law couldn't ignore this and retorted, What are you talking about? Those kids are the grandchildren of our family, especially John, who is the heir. They are rightfully ours, not yours. It was clear that her interest in the twins was solely because they were heirs. She cared for Sarah too, but John, being the heir, was her favorite. I see. I understand your affection for the twins, but is it right to neglect their mother, who was exhausted after childbirth? Forcing your way into her home is quite terrible, don't you think? My mother-in-law looked taken aback and started to turn pale again. Wait, you're not going to tell my husband about this, are you? He specifically told me not to come here. I can't let him find out. Despite her husband's clear instructions not to come, she had come of her own volition. If her husband found out, she might even face divorce papers. Pleading with my grandfather, she begged him to keep her visit a secret. But my grandfather, unwavering, responded, What are you talking about? There's no need to hide anything, especially if there's something to feel guilty about. I'll inform your husband about your visit. Next time, make sure to schedule an appointment, okay? With that, he closed the front door. Normally, my mother-in-law would have kept knocking and pressing the intercom repeatedly, but with Grandpa, the chairman, at home, she left quietly. She didn't mention her abrupt visit to my family's home, but later, my grandfather summoned her husband to his office and detailed what had happened. Despite his wife's blatant disregard for his advice, my father-in-law was visibly angry. I deeply apologize for my wife's thoughtless actions. I'll make sure she never does anything like this again, he said, offering a sincere apology to my grandfather. My father-in-law was sincerely apologizing to my grandfather, partly to salvage his promotion. However, my grandfather wasn't fooled by his father-in-law's true intentions. True, what your wife did is inexcusable, but don't you share some of the blame? You seem focused only on immediate concerns and pay little attention to those around you. There's significant dissatisfaction with you at the workplace. I can't possibly promote someone like that. As a result, my father-in-law's promotion was rescinded. Feeling that his wife had jeopardized his career, he returned home, gave his wife a stern reprimand, and slammed a completed divorce paper on the table before packing his bags and leaving. Until now, my mother-in-law had relied entirely on my father-in-law's salary, and without him, she faced an uncertain future. She tried to persuade him to stay, but it was too late. The damage was irreversible. All of this happened because of that woman. She should never have married my beloved James. I can't forgive her. I'll never forgive her. Having lost everything, my mother-in-law went on a rampage, storming my parents' home. She pounded on the door and screamed at the top of her lungs, I've lost everything because of you. If only you weren't here. Give me back my grandchildren. Give me back James. It was already past 9 p.m., and her behavior was nothing short of insane. Unable to endure it any longer, my husband called the police. My mother-in-law was taken to the station in a squad car. Throughout the ordeal, my husband continued to apologize to my parents and my grandfather for the trouble, even though they knew he wasn't at fault. The return of peace to our home was a welcome relief. and we hoped no one would disturb us again. We looked forward to finally living in tranquility. It was regrettable that things had come to this, but the prospect of raising our children in peace brought me a sense of relief. Subsequently, my in-laws divorced. My mother-in-law moved back to her parents' home in a remote, rural area with infrequent bus service. Without a driver's license, traveling was nearly impossible for her. The woman who had once been so eager to be close to her grandchildren now struggled with the absence of their presence. She repeatedly begged my husband to let her see the children and to reconcile with me, but my husband, unable to forgive his self-centered mother, blocked her calls. Unable to see her grandchildren and estranged from her son, my mother-in-law became increasingly despondent. Her parents offered no words of comfort, leaving her isolated. In the end, she locked herself in her room, crying daily in a state of deep regret. This vacation home is exclusively for my parents. I won't let your parents use it. I was stunned by my husband's words. He had casually purchased $1 million vacation home, and now his true intentions were clear. So that's what this is all about, I thought, realizing his motives. I had reached the end of my patience. Fine, but you're going to regret this, you know. I won't. You'll ever show your face to me again. Robert stood there, arms crossed, a smug grin on his face. If that's how it is, then I won't hold back. I'll make sure he regrets it, I thought. My name is Kathy. I married my husband, Robert, 4 years ago, and we've been living as a couple. Neither of us has any particular hobbies, so our savings kept growing. If I had to name one indulgence, perhaps it would be brewing coffee from beans on a weekend morning. Speaking of which, your mom's birthday is coming up soon, isn't it? I asked Robert, holding a freshly brewed cup of coffee. We're both in our mid-30s, and Robert's parents are turning 60 this year, a year ahead of mine. How about we give them a spa retreat as a gift for their birthdays? It'd be a nice memory, don't you think? A good idea, right? When I suggested this, my husband agreed. That might be a good idea. I'll ask my parents if they want anything specific. If not, we'll give them the spa retreat. They'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I didn't mean it like that. I know, just joking. Next time I see my parents, I'll talk to them about it. Kathy, can you look up some good spas? I got it. How about we go on a trip too? It would be nice for a change. 2 weeks passed, and my mother-in-law's birthday was fast approaching. Hey, we need to make a reservation soon. At this rate, we won't even make it for my father-in-law's birthday. Did you talk to your parents? In response to my hurried question, my husband answered leisurely, Oh, did I not tell you? I've already asked their preferences, so it's fine. We don't need to book the spa retreat. Is that so? Then it's okay, but what did they say they wanted? Eager to choose the gift together, I asked that question, but my husband gave me a look that suggested he found it troublesome. I'll handle everything. It's my parents' 60th birthday. You don't have to get involved, Kathy. Robert's words took me by surprise. He had never brushed me off like this before. That's not a nice way to say it, I said, feeling emotional. Why won't you tell me? We've always chosen gifts together. Every year, we decided on gifts for each other's parents. So why, suddenly, at such a significant milestone like their 60th birthday, would you say something like this? I was frustrated, unable to understand my husband's thinking. I don't like to boast, but I'm generally a mild-mannered person. I rarely raise my voice, but Robert wouldn't change his mind. He refused to tell me what his parents wanted. Since then, there's been an uncomfortable atmosphere between us, and we only communicate about necessary matters. Even when we drink coffee brewed from freshly ground beans, we remain silent. The day before my mother-in-law's birthday, my husband spoke to me for the first time in a while. We're going out tomorrow to celebrate Mom's 60th birthday, so get ready, Kathy. We're staying overnight, so be prepared for that too. His sudden announcement left me panicked. What? Where are we going? If we're staying overnight, you should have told me earlier. I have a lot to prepare. I just told you, didn't I? You're definitely going to be surprised. Unlike my panic, my husband was in high spirits. The next morning, we got into the car early and went to pick up my in-laws. They were very excited from the moment we arrived. I'm so excited. I never thought I'd get to celebrate my birthday like this. I really can't thank you enough, right, honey? Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Robert and Kathy. No. Happy birthday, Mom-in-law. I felt awkward because I hadn't been involved in choosing the present at all. Even when my in-laws expressed their gratitude, I could only respond vaguely. Then my husband said something that took me by surprise. Really, it's all thanks to Kathy. His words were a show of support, and I was genuinely touched by his consideration. Despite our recent disagreements, it felt like we could return to our old relationship. My gloomy feelings began to lift, and I decided to enjoy the journey to our destination. When we arrived at the cabin, it exceeded my expectations. Nestled in the woods, the entrance was spacious, and the living room was entirely glass, offering a stunning view. The cabin, surrounded by trees, blended beautifully with nature. It featured 3 bedrooms and even a hot tub in the bath. "This place is amazing. I'm so glad you picked it, Robert," I told my husband, my excitement bubbling over. "I never imagined you would choose such a fantastic spot. I wouldn't have found a place like this on my own. Letting you handle it was definitely the right choice. I'm sorry for being so irritable lately." My enthusiasm was interrupted by a surprising comment from Robert. "It's no big deal. If I were on my own, I wouldn't have been able to buy a cabin like this. It's because of Kathy that I was able to get it." "What?" I was taken aback and at a loss for words. "Buy? What is he talking about?" As confusion swirled in my mind, my in-laws joined in. "Thank you so much, Kathy. We never expected such a beautiful cabin. We were thinking of setting up a new home when we turned 60 and even considered living together. But remember, we decided against that, so we thought a cabin would be wonderful, and we discussed it with Robert. From the beginning of our marriage, I had declined the idea of living together. I wanted to enjoy our life as a couple, and my in-laws were still in good health, so I thought it was too early for us to live together." Robert agreed with my perspective, and we had planned to consider it only when my in-laws began to need more help. But I never expected them to ask for a new home as a 60th birthday present, especially not a cabin. It felt like a bit too much. Trying to control my rising panic, I asked my husband, "Robert, this is a joke, right? There's no way we can afford a cabin like this. What's the point of springing a surprise on me? It's your mother's birthday. The surprise should be for her." "It's not a joke. We actually bought this cabin." "What?" My vision momentarily blurred as shock set in. While I was reeling from the news, he continued, "Man, it really worked out for us. They said I couldn't get a mortgage on my own income. It was a good decision to get a joint mortgage." "Hold on a minute. I didn't hear anything about this before." "I just told you. And it's not a bad thing for Kathy, is it? You said it was a lovely cabin. It's ours." "That's not the point. How much did this vacation home cost?" My frustration was evident, and he dropped a bombshell. 1 million. "What? $1 million? And this was for my parents' 60th birthday." "I thought we'd splurge a bit," he said. The amount was far more than I could have ever imagined, leaving me feeling dizzy. To add insult to injury, my husband dropped another bombshell. "We couldn't get a loan for $1 million property in both our names, so I used all the money we've been saving since our marriage, the joint account, as the down payment," he confessed. "What?" By now, I was beyond shocked. I was completely dumbfounded. How could he be so selfish and make such a significant decision without even consulting me? I couldn't wrap my head around it. Despite my bewilderment, my husband continued casually, "Well, it's already bought. There's nothing to be done now. Besides, I considered your option of not living together. Isn't that enough? We can do whatever we want with this vacation home. Our vacations will be more enjoyable, won't they?" His nonchalant attitude only heightened my frustration. But now that it was done, there was no turning back. As Robert said, the vacation home was indeed lovely, and it would likely enhance our holiday experiences. "Fine, it's bought, so there's nothing we can do about it. But you could have at least consulted me," I muttered. At that, Robert brightened up and laughed. "That's more like it. I should have consulted you. I'm sorry. I wanted it to be a surprise for you too, Kathy. You're quite something, aren't you?" Despite not consulting me and using our joint savings for the mortgage, I realized there were no major expenses on the horizon. I earned significantly more than Robert and had my own savings. I decided to accept it as a good purchase. Feeling resolved, I decided to embrace the grand celebration for my mother-in-law's birthday and enjoy our 2-day stay at the villa. Once home, I brewed a cup of coffee and reminisced about our stay. The villa was indeed splendid, with a wood-burning stove in the living room that would be perfect for winter. Feeling content, I turned to Robert and said, "Hey, when are we going back to the villa? I want to pick out some new dishes for it." "Yeah, I'll check with my parents." "Can't we go by ourselves?" Well, the villa is technically in our names, but it was a gift for my parents' 60th anniversary. It wouldn't be right if they had other plans, he explained. I had a nagging suspicion, even though the villa was technically ours, it felt like it might end up being treated as my in-laws' property. I quickly suggested, since it's our villa, we could invite my parents too, right? Yeah, if they're available, he replied noncommittally. At least he didn't refuse outright. That was a small relief. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that my optimism might be misplaced. For the past 6 months, I hadn't been allowed to stay at the villa even once. I would drive there, drop off my in-laws, prepare their meals, and then head back home. The next day, I'd pick them up, clean up, and drive them back. It had been this way for 6 months. Despite my numerous complaints, Robert always had an excuse, sometimes even yelling at me. But today, I wasn't backing down, especially with my parents' birthday approaching. Hey Robert, my father's birthday is in 2 months. We should be able to invite them to the villa, right? It's our villa, I emphasize, hoping to make my point clear. Our villa, I stress, appealing to him directly. But his response was as frustratingly predictable as ever. If my parents don't have plans. Seriously, it's always the same. We haven't stayed at the villa once in the 6 months since we bought it. It's always about your parents. This is our villa, and we should have priority. Plus, I'm also paying the mortgage and the down payment. My parents deserve to stay there too. Today, I wasn't going to back down. I was more determined than ever. Robert's face darkened as he replied sharply. Enough. That vacation house is for my parents only. I won't let your parents use it. So that was your plan all along, wasn't it? No wonder you bought the vacation house without telling me. The patience I had been holding onto shattered in my chest, like something breaking under pressure. I'll never forgive you for this. Don't think you can get away with such selfish behavior. I confronted him directly. Fine, if that's how it is, I won't hold back anymore. Let's get a divorce. What the hell? You're being so petty. Well, whatever. My parents appreciate the vacation home, and I'm sure my mom will handle the housework. I won't be troubled at all without you. And if we're divorcing, I'm not letting you use the vacation house. Are you still okay with that? He wore a smug expression, arms crossed in satisfaction. I felt a pang of regret for falling for his manipulative tactics, but it was too late for that now. All that was left was to seek my own form of retribution. I lowered my voice and applied pressure, determined to make my point. Are you sure about this? You're going to regret it. Not a chance. Fine, it's settled then. Don't ever show up in front of me again. The next day, I filed for divorce. It was processed without any issues, and I decided to walk back to my parents' house. A few months later, Robert called my parents' house in a state of panic. When I answered, he was frantic. Is that you, Kathy? What do you want now? We have nothing left to discuss. He shouted back in desperation. I tried calling your cell phone. Why didn't you answer? Some person claiming to be your lawyer showed up at my house today. Is this something you arranged? Can you explain what's going on? What's there to explain? The lawyer's message is clear. Since we're divorced, I won't be paying the mortgage. If you don't agree to this, I'm considering selling the vacation house. That's all there is to it. But that vacation house is in both our names. Even after the divorce, isn't it fair for you to keep paying the mortgage? To my ex-husband, who was at his wit's end, I calmly replied, even though it's in both our names, I'm not allowed to use it. Why should I keep paying the mortgage for a property I can't access? It doesn't make sense. Oh no, but it's a shared property. You should be the one paying. This conversation is going nowhere. That's why I involved a lawyer. If you're going to insist on your view, I'm ending this call. For any further discussions, contact my lawyer. I didn't have time to deal with his unreasonable demands. I had my own matters to handle. Hold on, wait a minute. I made a mistake. How about we use the vacation house alternately? That should work, right? You keep paying the mortgage, and I'll let you use it from time to time. I have no attachment to that vacation house anymore. I've already bought a new one. What? When did that happen? Yes, I gave the vacation house to my parents for their 60th birthday. It's not $1 million estate, but it's a cozy cottage they love. Are we done here? I don't have time to chat. Wait, please. I quit my job. I know. What about it? It was probably my father's influence, wasn't it? My father is an executive with many influential contacts, including the president of Robert's company. My father must have complained about how Robert treated me, leading the company president to take action. I heard that Robert chose to resign voluntarily after receiving pressure. I'm sure the company president did something behind the scenes. Hey, help me out, Robert pleaded, his voice choked with emotion. I've been getting hostile looks from my coworkers. I quit my job and found a new one, but the salary is lower. I can't keep up with the mortgage payments on my own. Isn't it your father's responsibility to cover the mortgage? He's so self-centered. How far will he go to satisfy himself? I was at my breaking point with his selfishness. Sure, my father might have played a role in your job situation, but you're the one who caused the initial problem, Robert. Don't try to shift the blame. You're at fault for using our shared property to please your parents. You've brought this on yourself. I didn't think it would turn out like this. You reap what you sow. I hope you suffer through mortgage hell, you selfish jerk. Wait, please. I heard his desperate plea but hung up the phone without hesitation. Over the following months, I worked through my lawyer and finally extricated myself from the mortgage on the vacation house. Ultimately, Robert couldn't manage the mortgage payments alone, and the vacation house was sold. With the property's value having dropped, Robert ended up in debt. His in-laws were shocked by the turn of events, and Robert now reportedly lives in a shabby apartment. His parents are now the subject of neighborhood gossip for losing the vacation house they once bragged about. Meanwhile, I'm thriving in my role as vice president at my father's company, leading a busy and fulfilling life. My happiest moments are now when the three of us visit the vacation house on our days off and enjoy a relaxing cup of coffee together. My husband is cheating on me. He's been buying his mistress designer goods with my credit card. I've tolerated it for our son's sake, but I've reached my limit. I can't forgive him. I have to take action. The person who came to my aid was the last person I expected. My name is Flora, and I'm 35 years old. I've been married to Adam for 10 years, and our beloved son, Dominic, just turned 8. I have always loved reading, and now I'm living my dream as a novelist. My mystery series has gained a significant following, allowing me to secure several monthly serials. Thankfully, my standalone books are also selling well, keeping me busy every day. Initially, Adam had a job, but as soon as I started earning, he quit. For the last 2 or 3 years, he's mostly lounged around at home, occasionally going out to play pachinko. Yet today, unusually, he's dressed in a suit. Something's not right. Why the suit? I decided to ask him directly, Adam, it's rare to see you in a suit. Where are you going? His eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly regained his composure and said, a job interview. A job interview. For what? Well, it's obviously for a job, right? I thought it might be time for me to start working again. I see. Good luck. Yeah, I'm off. At that moment, I genuinely believed he was going for a job interview. I thought that with our son still so young, he had reconsidered his priorities for the future. However, Adam didn't return home until 1 a.m. that night. I happened to be awake because of a looming deadline. Reeking of alcohol and perfume, he fell asleep on the living room sofa. In his hand was his smartphone, unlocked. Out of sheer curiosity, I peeked at my husband's phone. What? What is this? I can't believe this. To cut to the chase, my husband was cheating on me. What's more shocking, his affair was with my best friend, Delphine. It seemed like they had been to a fancy restaurant with a beautiful night view that day. The shock was like a dull blow. It was too much. How could Adam cheat on me with Delphine? Why? Doesn't Delphine have a husband too? I trusted them both. The unexpected reality hit me, and tears welled up in my eyes. Knowing I shouldn't wake my husband, I stifled my sobs. Evidence. Yes, evidence. For now, I sent the proof of the affair to my own phone and decided to think about the next steps. The next morning, I casually asked my husband, who was acting as usual, Hey, Adam, about yesterday. Yesterday. You know, you said you had an interview, but you came home late. I was just wondering what happened. Adam averted his eyes, clearly trying to think up an excuse. Actually, I ran into a friend after the interview. We ended up going for a drink. A friend? Who? Just some guy. You don't know him, Flora. Do I need to explain everything? Yeah, you're right. As expected, my husband concealed the fact that he had met with Delphine. His affair was clear from his evasive attitude as well. 1 month after discovering my husband's infidelity, I was still lost in confusion. I hadn't confronted him about the affair yet. Once I brought it up, it was clear that a crack would form in our relationship. If I were alone, I would have confronted him with the evidence and divorced him right away. The only reason I didn't divorce him was for our son Dominic. I couldn't bring myself to take his father away from him at the tender age of 8. Afterward, my husband started going out frequently, taking advantage of me being busy with work in my room. However, this was also an excellent opportunity. While he was out, I decided to gather more evidence of his infidelity. What I found in his room were several unfamiliar receipts. Apparently, he had been buying women's designer items, but there was nothing like that in his room, and of course, I hadn't received anything. There was only one conclusion I could reach. Adam, you've been lavishing Delphine with designer items, but where did he get the money for that? He's jobless now and living off the allowance I give him every month. There's likely no savings left. Concerned, I decided to follow him. During that time, I called my brother to watch over Dominic. Of course, my brother didn't know about my husband's affair, so I had to lie to him. Bro, sorry for calling you out of the blue. Nah, it's fine, but what's up? Suddenly asking me to look after Dominic? Actually, I really want to go shopping alone. Shopping? You've never been much of a materialist. Don't you usually shop online? Well, that's true, but today I want to buy something that's only available in the store. So can you please look after Dominic? Well, all right, but don't be too late, okay? Dominic gets lonely. Yeah, thank you. With my brother's cooperation, I managed to follow my husband. Right now, he's walking arm in arm with my best friend, Delphine. I knew what was happening, but seeing it with my own eyes was a shock. The two of them cheerfully entered a high-end designer store, and then I saw something outrageous. No way, is that my credit card? Indeed, the card my husband used to pay the bill was my secondary credit card. I always keep my main card in my wallet, but the secondary one was left in a drawer. He took it without my knowledge and used it to fund his gifts. Over the past few months, I have been buying new work tools like monitors and keyboards and even new furniture, so the amount on the credit card has skyrocketed. Both cards are linked to the same bank account, and because I've been busy recently, I haven't checked the details carefully. This came back to bite me. I can't believe it. Not only was he cheating on me, but he was also freely using my money. Any love I had for my husband had completely cooled off. Of course, I was at fault for not noticing, but I still couldn't forgive him. I took clear pictures of the two of them in the act and returned home. For the next few days, I was engrossed in thinking about how to get back at my husband. I checked his computer multiple times when he wasn't around. Since he syncs his smartphone and computer, I could easily check his and Delphine's exchanges. Soon, I found out that the two of them were planning a trip during the upcoming long weekend. A 4-day, 3-night trip to Okinawa. This is my only chance. I decided to execute my revenge plan to coincide with my husband's affair trip. But there was one problem. The presence of my son. It would be difficult to carry out this plan without my son finding out about his father's infidelity. I decided to rely on my brother's help again. Hey bro, sorry to ask again, but could you look after Dominic for me during the upcoming long weekend? You mean for the entire 4 days? Yeah, I have something I need to take care of. Something to take care of? He said with a knowing tone. Just as I was starting to feel uneasy about his attitude, he added firmly, Flora, you don't have to handle everything on your own. Bro Adam's cheating on me, isn't he? What? How did you know? I heard it from Dominic. Huh? Dominic? Even though he's still a child, my son had noticed his father's infidelity. I'm not sure if Dominic fully understood the concept of infidelity, but he was aware that his father was becoming close to someone who wasn't his mother and that this was causing me pain. It seemed Dominic, in his own childlike way, had noticed the strain. I thought I was doing a good job of hiding it from him. How? It means Adam has hurt you so much that even Dominic can see it. Are you still planning to stay with someone like that? But if I divorce Adam, Dominic will be upset. As soon as I muttered this, my son, who was supposed to be in the next room, appeared. It's okay, Mom. I'm on your side. Dominic, are you sure? I don't need someone who makes Mom sad. As long as I have Mom, I'm okay. Thank you, Dominic, and thank you too, bro. With the support of my son and brother, I felt resolute about carrying out my plan to confront Adam. We started moving to a new place on the day my husband was leaving for his affair trip. My brother helped us, and we secretly packed while Adam was away. Then, on the night before the long weekend, I decided to give my husband one last chance. I asked him, who was excited about his trip starting the next day, Adam, what's with the luggage? Why are you packing a suitcase? Oh, this? I'm going on a trip with a friend starting tomorrow. A trip? Did you mention anything about that? It's a last-minute decision. Who cares? I'm going with the budget from the monthly allowance I get. Trying to avoid further questions, Adam radiated a don't talk to me anymore vibe, but I didn't let it bother me. I questioned my husband in a voice softer than I'd ever used before. Is it really just a trip with a friend? Adam was visibly shaken, his shoulders twitching. Despite this, he desperately lied. Of course, you've been nagging me about it. I see. A trip with a friend. Have fun. I was going to have fun whether you told me to or not. Well, just don't get too carried away, okay? With that, I left the room. Honestly, if he had confessed the truth, I was considering just asking for alimony and child support and settling things amicably. Despite his betrayal, he was someone I once loved. When my novel sales faltered, it was his support that helped me keep going. I didn't want to hate him or resent him deeply. However, after what he's done, I couldn't stay composed. For the sake of my son and my future, I had to end my relationship with him. There was no reason to hold back any longer for a man who kept lying. The next morning, Adam had already left for his trip. I opened the drawer and confirmed that he had taken my credit card as usual. I immediately contacted the credit card company, reported the card as lost, and requested to stop its use. When my son woke up, I greeted him. Good morning. He responded with a wide smile. Mom, today's the day, right? Ha! The move. We're going to our new home today, right? Seeing the excitement in his eyes, the last bit of my anxiety melted away. Yes, that's right. I've stopped the credit card. Let's get ready for our new home. I'm excited for our new house. With my brother's help, the move went smoothly. My son and I settled into our new home, while Adam's belongings were sent off elsewhere. The next day, as I was settling into the new house with my son and brother, I received a call from my husband. Hello. Ah, is that you, Flora? Do you need something? Well, actually, I've ended up spending more than I thought. Could you transfer me a little bit of money? He must have been having trouble paying for things on his trip since I'd suspended the card. He was indirectly asking for money without mentioning the card, which was infuriating. You said you were going to stay within your allowance, right? Sorry, but I can't lend you anything. Don't say that. I can enjoy the trip if you do this. Enjoy the trip alone, you mean? At that, my husband sounded genuinely puzzled. Ha! You were planning to show Delphine the sights, weren't you? Unfortunately, the card you took is no longer usable, so you might as well give up. What are you talking about, Flora? Who's Delphine? What about the card? Don't pretend you don't know. You're too flustered to hide it. It's because you're saying things I don't understand. I don't know anything about the card. That's enough. It's already out that you cheated on me with my best friend, Delphine. Ha! Did you really think it wasn't exposed? Are you that clueless? It's obvious. No, this isn't what it looks like. It's not cheating. I was seething with anger at my husband's pathetic excuses. Ignoring my brother and son, I let out all the rage I had been holding back. Don't try to justify yourself. You had a family, but you had an affair with another woman and used someone else's card. Do you even realize how low you've sunk? Flora, let's calm down. Calm down? How can I stay calm when I'm dealing with the person I despise the most? I want you to know that I have no intention of forgiving you or helping you. I hope you and that woman you're involved with end up in the worst place possible. Don't you ever show your face in front of me or Dominic again. With that, I hung up on my husband. Almost immediately, I received a call from Delphine, the woman he cheated with. What the heck, Flora? Oh, Delphine, long time no see. How's the trip with your best friend's husband? Shut up. Explain yourself first. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. You sent Adam's things to my house, didn't you? Yes, during the move, I had indeed sent my husband's belongings to Delphine's house. Given that Delphine was married, her husband was naturally at home, which is why I deliberately sent everything to him. I included a detailed letter explaining the situation and expressed my anger over the phone, nearly blowing out the speaker. Are you kidding me? My husband found out, and now he's... Isn't that to be expected? You're having an affair while you're married. To think my best friend would betray me like this. I'm utterly disappointed. Excuse me, I think that's my line. My best friend was cheating with my husband. Do you think I forgive that? Who was the one who disrespected the friendship first? I wasn't serious. It was just a fling. There's no way I'd settle for a jobless loser like him. Whether you were serious or not is irrelevant to me. I'm getting a divorce soon too. The fact remains that you had an affair, and I will never forgive you. Expect to face the maximum compensation demands. Be prepared. Compensation? What are you talking about? It's only fair given what you've done. Wait, I'm a housewife. I can't afford any compensation. I don't care. You'll have to figure it out or beg your husband for help, though I wouldn't count on that. Wait a minute, Flora. Hey, wait. Goodbye. I ended the call and blocked her number. After that, I finalized the divorce through my lawyer and demanded compensation from both my ex-husband and Delphine. I requested child support and reimbursement for the unauthorized charges on my credit card. Burdened by the compensation payments, Delphine's husband served her divorce papers and kicked her out of their home. She tried to stay with her family, but they turned her away. Now she's working night shifts to make ends meet and has distanced herself from her ex-husband. Their relationship quickly dissolved. As for my ex-husband, I've heard he's now juggling multiple part-time jobs, barely getting by. After being unemployed for so long, finding a stable job won't be easy for him. And if he falls behind on the compensation or child support, I'm prepared to pursue it relentlessly. As for me, my son and I are settling into a peaceful life in our new home. Watching him grow up so quickly, every day feels fresh and full of new possibilities. I'm dedicated to showering him with love and ensuring he has a joyful and fulfilling childhood. I've grown accustomed to my mother-in-law's frequent jabs about my work-from-home arrangement. I'm Susan, a 32-year-old web designer, living with my husband John and his mother in the family home, which was once John's childhood residence. Before our marriage, I worked for a company, but after tying the knot, I transitioned to freelancing from home. Most of my projects come from referrals by my former employer and clients who appreciate my design work. This setup benefits us both. I avoid the daily commute and can better manage household responsibilities, and my previous employer remains satisfied with my continued contributions. Despite this, my mother-in-law is not pleased with my career choice. She clings to traditional views, insisting that a wife should focus solely on housework and supporting her husband. Times have changed, and many households now feature dual income earners. John tries to placate her, but she retorts, "You're the one bringing in the money. She should be handling the housework properly." With a dismissive tone, she adds, "I doubt your wife's home business is earning much." My mother-in-law seems unable to grasp the value of my work, consistently belittling it as just a home business. I feel like I'm managing both the housework and my work effectively, but my mother-in-law's dissatisfaction persists because my approach to work doesn't align with her ideal of a full-time housewife. To her, I may seem like the intruder who stole her beloved son. Since the start of our marriage, she's been making sarcastic remarks and seems to disapprove of everything I do. John has shared that since his father passed away 5 years ago, she's become increasingly reliant on him. While he's clearly frustrated at times, he also seems to take comfort in being needed by his mother. Our home, located in a quiet residential area, was bought by John's father about 30 years ago. The mortgage was settled with his life insurance, and the house is now under his mother's name. It's the perfect size for the three of us and includes a room dedicated to my work, which is a significant advantage. My mother-in-law has lived here for 3 decades and has built a network of friends in the neighborhood who visit frequently. When they come over, I'm often pulled away from my work to serve tea and snacks. These gatherings usually turn into sessions where the women share their grievances about their daughters-in-law, adding to my discomfort. From my workspace, I overhear my mother-in-law and her friends exchanging stories about their daughters-in-law. My daughter-in-law runs back to her parents at the slightest issue. One friend complains. She's only here about half the year and spends money like there's no tomorrow. We even had debt collectors at the door. It was a nightmare. I can't help but chuckle at their tales. They seem to be competing to outdo each other in describing how difficult their daughters-in-law are, with nothing positive to say about them. Meanwhile, the daughter-in-law they're describing is doing an impressive job balancing work and housework. When one friend praises my efforts, my mother-in-law's dissatisfaction is palpable. She's not doing anything extraordinary with her work, she comments loudly enough for me to hear. It's just a small home business. I wonder how much she's really earning. Another friend chimes in, my daughter-in-law spends all her part-time job earnings on herself. A third adds, the money my wife earns is hers, and the money her husband earns is for all of us. Their laughter fills the room. My mother-in-law then begins recounting one of her familiar stories from the past, and I put on my headphones to block out the noise. I've heard these anecdotes countless times and find them tiresome. More importantly, I can't tolerate the way they disparage modern wives. I focus on my work, tuning out the criticism and clamor around me. During dinner one evening, John brought up the idea of getting a new car. I've been thinking about buying a new car. Do you think that's okay? He asked nonchalantly. My mother-in-law, however, snapped back, "Why do you need your wife's permission to buy a car?" John quickly tried to explain himself. "Well, it's a car for all of us. I can't just make the decision alone, can I?" Buying a car is a significant decision that ideally involves everyone in the family, but my mother-in-law wasn't satisfied. She continued to argue, saying, "You're the only one with a driver's license, so you should get whatever car you want." John, who usually follows his mother's lead, glanced at me with a look of helplessness. I decided to step in, offering him some support. "You can make the decision yourself," I said. "It's okay to decide without constantly checking with me or your mother." John's tendency to seek approval from both me and his mother is both considerate and a bit frustrating. His father was a decisive man, making unilateral decisions, which my mother-in-law often complained about. Seeing this dynamic, John has grown up believing that being assertive is wrong. Conversely, my mother-in-law, who was accustomed to a domineering husband, believes that's how a husband should be. As a result, her dissatisfaction with John's indecision often seems to be directed at me. Susan constantly blames me for John's behavior. "Susan is always nagging John, which is why he's become like this," she said, shifting the blame onto me. I was caught off guard and didn't know how to respond. John chimed in, adding, "Yeah, Susan's always complaining, and that's why I can't make decisions on my own." I stayed silent, even though I tried to defend myself. It was futile. John consistently sides with his mother. Despite being married for nearly 2 years, he has never stood up for me in front of her. When she's not around, he apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry, you're really the most important to me." But I struggle to trust him. He once seemed considerate, but now his lack of support makes me question our relationship. I'm beginning to wonder if continuing with John is the right choice. Kindness and indecisiveness are different, and I wish he would stand up to his mother. About a month later, John's new car arrived. "The smell of a new car is the best. Let's all go for a drive on my next day off," he said excitedly. His enthusiasm was contagious, and even my mother-in-law seemed pleased. "That's a beautiful car. It must have been quite expensive, but that's fine since it's coming out of your salary, right?" John didn't answer her question, instead delighting in exploring the features of the car. I stood there, astonished by the sight of the pricey new vehicle. I had told him he could decide on his own, but seeing his exuberance, I confronted him. "How much did that car cost?" He answered casually, $60,000. Noticing my stunned reaction, John added, "But you said I could buy any car I wanted, didn't you?" My mother-in-law quickly backed him up. "That's right, you gave John the freedom to choose. So don't complain now." I had indeed left the decision up to him, but I hoped he would consider our financial situation. Ignoring my mother-in-law's comment, I asked John, "Where is that kind of money coming from?" "Well, I'm financing it with a loan," he replied hesitantly. Before I could respond, my mother-in-law interjected, "Susan, don't complain. You're not the one paying for it." Her anger seemed directed at me for either ignoring her or questioning John's decision. With a fierce glare, she added, "You're such a disagreeable daughter-in-law, always finding something to complain about, even though you're living off John's salary." Tone was unusually harsh, making it clear that her frustration was aimed directly at me. "I have a job too," I retorted. My mother-in-law didn't let it slide. "What are you talking about? Your part-time job doesn't bring in much. John makes $5,000 a month." Her condescending tone felt like a personal attack. I was about to clarify that her figure was actually my salary, but when I looked around for John, he had vanished into his room. "I've been patient long enough, but I can't tolerate a daughter-in-law like you any longer." My mother-in-law's words stung deeply. I had been patient too, and discussing my salary seemed pointless at this point. The situation felt absurd, and I was fed up with both her comments and John's avoidance. Wasn't he the one who started this argument with his usual indecisiveness? "Fine, I'll leave then," I said. I went to my home office, quickly packed up my laptop and essential items, and left the house. "I'll come back for the rest of my things later," I told my mother-in-law, who glared at me with a menacing look. Meanwhile, John remained sequestered in his room. Next time you come here, make sure you've signed the divorce papers, my furious mother-in-law shouted at me. Did you hear me, you useless woman? Her harsh words were a shock, as it was the first time I'd heard her speak so rudely. I chose to ignore her and stormed out of my in-laws' house. I wasn't sure if her anger was due to my decision to leave as she demanded or because I confronted John about the money. Regardless, I was determined to leave as soon as possible. I went back to my parents' house for the time being, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. My mother was taken aback by my sudden arrival. I don't know what's going on, but you can stay here as long as you need to, my dad said, clearly sensing the distress in my expression. I didn't hear from John after that. The man who once cherished me seemed to have disappeared, and I couldn't help but feel foolish for not recognizing that he was a husband who always deferred to his mother. Talking to my parents helped me feel better and calmed me down. You don't have children. It's better to divorce sooner rather than later, my mom advised, and I agreed. With my job providing financial stability, I wasn't worried about the future. That weekend, my father helped me move my belongings out of John's house. John was nowhere to be found, and my mother-in-law stayed hidden in her room. Standing outside my husband's room, I called, "Thank you for everything. Could you sign the divorce papers?" I slipped the papers under the door and waited. Moments later, his curt voice came from behind the door. "I've signed them. Is this okay?" Along with his response, he pushed the signed papers back under the door. I felt a pang of sadness as I realized our marriage had ended this way. Without saying a word to my mother-in-law, I left the house. Although I had lived there for about 2 years, the memories were fond. I headed straight to the city hall to submit the divorce papers, eager to finalize everything as swiftly as possible. After the divorce, I moved back in with my parents and continued working from their home. I had considered renting a place of my own, but my mother urged me to stay with them. "It's much safer here than living alone," she said. My father shared the same concern. "John and his mom are unpredictable. They might come looking for you." While I thought this was unlikely, I found comfort in being with my parents. Since my job allows me to work remotely, I decided to stay with them for the time being. 2 months later, having nearly forgotten about my ex-husband and mother-in-law, I started receiving calls from an unknown number. Who could that be? Maybe it's a wrong number, I thought, initially ignoring the calls. However, they persisted. Reluctantly, I answered and heard my ex-husband's voice. "Why did you answer the phone sooner?" he asked, sounding flustered. "Well, it's an unknown number, and besides, we're not related anymore, so I'm about to hang up," I said as I prepared to end the call. But he quickly interjected, Wait, I can't connect my smartphone." "Why is that?" I asked, noticing his desperation. "I wouldn't know. You should check with your phone company," I replied. Then a thought struck me. "Are you by any chance not depositing money into your bank account?" When we were married, I had deposited money from my salary into the account to cover public utilities. His salary was also deposited there, but it was so low that it barely made a difference. He was selling health food products on a commission basis, but his earnings were minimal since he didn't generate many orders. Most of his income was just the basic salary, which meant only a few $100s came in each month. I had been covering the bills with my salary, but for the past 3 months, the account had only seen his small salary. The argument about the car and my decision to leave happened midway through the month. The payments for that new car might have already started. My ex-husband on the other end of the line fell silent. "I've been managing everything with my own salary. From now on, you'll need to handle it yourself," I told him. I wanted to say, "Serve you right," but I held back and ended the call. It was likely that he never mentioned his true earnings to his mother. She probably didn't realize that since our marriage, we had been mostly relying on my salary. John must have been too embarrassed to admit he earned less than I did. I knew that utilities like electricity and water are usually the last to be cut off, with cell phone service being the first to go. A few days later, on a quiet weekend morning, the doorbell at my parents' house rang loudly. My dad answered the door and began arguing with someone. "We have nothing to do with you anymore, so leave," he said, his usual calm demeanor replaced by visible anger. Concerned, my mom and I headed toward the entrance. "I just want to see Susan," a voice demanded, and my heart raced as I recognized my ex-mother-in-law's voice. As my dad had warned, she had come to our house. When she spotted me, her face contorted into a terrifying expression, and she started shouting, Because you stopped depositing money into the account, the electricity and water have been cut off. My parents and I were stunned. What does she mean? The electricity and water are cut off? I wondered aloud. At that moment, my ex-husband arrived, trying to defuse the situation. Mom, stop it. This has nothing to do with Susan. But my ex-mother-in-law brushed him aside and continued her outburst. John makes $5,000 a month. How could the electricity and water be cut off? You must be mistaken. I'm the one who makes $5,000, I said, finally stating what I had been unable to before. My ex-mother-in-law's surprise was evident, and she turned to John. That's right, it wasn't my salary. It was all Susan's, he confessed, his shoulders drooping in defeat. What? How can you make so much with a part-time job? My ex-mother-in-law stared at me with a look of disbelief, as if she had been outwitted by some clever trick. I've told you before, it's not a part-time job. It's a real job, I said. My ex-mother-in-law's face went pale. How much does John make? She asked, her voice trembling. About $500 net, John admitted, his voice barely audible. There was a stunned silence. Then, in an unbelievable turn, my ex-mother-in-law pleaded, Susan, can't you come back? The whole leave us thing was just a joke. She adopted a submissive posture, almost as if trying to win me over with flattery. What are you talking about? I'm divorced. I have nothing to do with you anymore, I insisted firmly. Despite my clear rejection, my ex-mother-in-law continued to beg, you could just remarry John. If we start the paperwork now, it'll be fine. Before I could react further, my dad intervened. We're done with you. If you don't leave immediately, we'll call the police. Hearing my father's stern warning, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law quickly departed. If you come back, I'll call the cops right away, my father added as they made their hasty exit. What a bunch of uncouth people, my mother exclaimed in disbelief, while my father's anger was palpable. I'm glad you got out of that marriage, Susan, one of John's friends told me when I received an update about my ex's family. It turned out that John had sold the family home and land, moving into an apartment with his mother. The new car he had barely used was sold as well, and the proceeds from the land sale went toward paying off his remaining debts. While he managed to clear his financial obligations, he soon squandered the money he had left on gambling. Having blown through the funds from selling the family home, John disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, his mother, who was left behind, developed dementia and had to be placed in a care facility. As for me, I'm doing well. I've settled into a fulfilling job and am living independently. Recently, I started dating a man I met through work. He's understanding about my past and is very dedicated to this career. Unlike John, he's not someone who relies on his partner's money for extravagant purchases. Although we're not engaged yet, we both feel a strong connection and see a potential future together. When my husband found out that I couldn't inherit my father's estate, he exploded in anger. What? You can't inherit the property? Then you're useless to me. I want a divorce right now. Determined to get my revenge on both him and my sister, who remarried quickly, I plotted my next steps. My name is Julie, a 32-year-old office worker. I've been married to Brian for 2 years. We met through a relative's introduction, and soon after, we got married. Coming from a wealthy family, my relatives were concerned about finding an heir since my sister Mary and I were the only children. They introduced Brian, believing he would make a suitable son-in-law. Although Brian never became an adopted son-in-law, he moved in with my family. My mother passed away a few years ago, so now it's just my father, my husband, and me living in our family home. My husband seemed very kind and treated my father well, but the relative who introduced him to me had warned me just before our wedding. I know I introduced Brian to you, but be careful, he can be a bit obsessed with money. Despite this warning, I saw no signs of my husband being money-obsessed, even as we were about to get married and had already completed the engagement ceremony. We went ahead with the marriage, and though I kept an eye on him because of the relative's words, I saw nothing suspicious. However, Brian did show a keen interest in my father's wealth. He would sometimes casually ask about the extent of our property when he joined my father for a drink. Since my father was always open about such things, I didn't worry too much. Another thing that piqued my husband's interest was my sister. Mary is 5 years younger than me, and unlike my calm demeanor, she's bright, active, and enjoys a flashy social life with men. She looks nothing like me, and Brian was visibly surprised when he first saw her. Your sister is so different from you, Julie, isn't she? Seeing my husband's fascination with my sister, who is a beautiful woman with striking features compared to my plain looks, made me feel uneasy. Still, the reason our relatives introduced Brian to me was that they were worried I wouldn't get married due to my modest appearance and personality, leaving no one to carry on our family name. At the time, I thought there was no need to worry since I had a beautiful sister, but I later understood why our relatives were concerned. My father spoiled my sister a lot, letting her go to college after high school and then to a vocational school after graduation. My sister didn't have any specific goals for attending college or vocational school. She just didn't want to work. My mother was strict with my sister, trying to persuade her to find a job after college, but my father insisted on sending her to a vocational school. After graduating from vocational school, my sister got a job at my father's friend's company but quit after 6 months. I was shocked by the excuse she gave when she quit. I can't fully use my talents at that company. My sister, who hadn't even worked for half a year, acted as if she already understood everything about her job, which left my mother and me dumbfounded. However, my father seemed to believe her and quickly found her another job. A while after starting her new job, my mother fell ill and was hospitalized. My sister visited her every day, taking time off work. Eventually, she quit this job too, claiming she would take care of her sick mother. However, taking care merely involved being in the hospital room, chatting with our mother, or staring at her smartphone in the waiting room. I was the one who had to fetch her mother's laundry and bring her fresh clothes during her hospital stay, as my sister was of no help at all. Although my mother might have appreciated having someone to talk to, her condition worsened significantly after about a month, leaving her unable to converse. 2 weeks later, she passed away. The sudden loss shook my father and sisters so much that they couldn't even prepare for the funeral, so I had to handle everything. With the help of our relatives, we managed to give our mother a proper farewell. After our mother's death, my sister started working part-time and moved out of our family home to live on her own. Since her part-time income wasn't enough to cover her rent, our father paid for her rent and utility bills, while my sister spent her earnings on leisure activities. Whenever her part-time income fell short, she would ask our father for an allowance. When our mother was alive, she had been strict with my sister, so our father didn't give her any allowance once she started working. But now, he gave her as much as she wanted. I thought it was fine if both my father and sister were happy with that arrangement. Even after I got married and continued living with my husband in my family home, my father kept giving my sister an allowance. At that time, I didn't realize that my sister was also asking my husband for money, and he was happily giving it to her. Unable to say no to my beautiful sister, my husband would secretly hand over money, saying, "Don't tell Julie about this. She might get jealous if she finds out." My sister only worked part-time when she felt like it, living off the money she got from our father and my husband. But her carefree lifestyle didn't last forever, as our father fell ill and had to be hospitalized. I took care of our father during my breaks from work, but my sister never showed up at the hospital. Instead, she started calling me and demanding money. "I've been getting money from Dad every month, so I want you to keep giving it to me. The rent and utilities are all being withdrawn from Dad's account, after all." Her angry tone shocked me, as this was the first time I learned about it. Furious at my sister's self-centeredness, I wanted to hang up on her, but she seemed desperate, so I asked how much money our father had been giving her every month. "How much have you been getting from Dad every month? You need to get a job and live on your own earnings." My sister replied grumpily, "You're so annoying. I've been getting $1,000 a month. That doesn't include rent and utilities, by the way." I was appalled by my sister's boastfulness. If our father kept giving her so much money, she would never have the motivation to work seriously. I didn't think it was much of a problem to give my sister money, assuming our father would recover quickly. However, his condition suddenly worsened, and I was hardly in touch with our relatives. The doctor informed me that it was a serious situation, and I was deeply shocked. In times like these, I needed my husband's support, but he rarely came to the hospital, claiming he was busy with work. When he did visit, he would ask inappropriate questions, such as, "Your father's inheritance must be substantial, right? Since you and your sister are the only heirs, are you planning to split it in half?" I was at a loss for words, realizing that my husband was fixated on the inheritance. I finally understood what the relatives had meant when they warned me about his obsession with money, and I felt disgusted. When my sister received a call, I explained that our father was in critical condition. Her response, however, was only about her own finances. "Make sure you pay me my monthly allowance. I can't survive without that money." The call ended abruptly. I was infuriated by her response, but I was also disturbed by the faint male voice I heard on the other end. I recognized the voice and had a sinking feeling about what it might mean. About a month later, my father passed away, and neither my sister nor my husband was present during his final moments. Having been through my mother's funeral, I knew how burdensome the preparations could be. To make matters worse, neither my sister nor my husband offered any help. My sister didn't even attend the funeral. My husband did show up briefly, but he left immediately afterward, claiming he had work. The relative who introduced me to my husband noticed his absence and asked, "Where's your husband? Isn't it unusual for the chief mourner to be missing?" I could only force a smile and respond, "He seems to be busy with work, so he went back." The relative sighed, and I felt like sighing too. Once the funeral was over and I finally had a moment to breathe, my husband grinned and asked, "So, how much did you inherit? Even if you split it in half, you'll get a lot of money, right?" As the relatives had warned me before our marriage, it seemed my husband was only interested in my father's inheritance. Disappointed by his true nature, I gave him a vague response. "My sister gets $1 billion and I get nothing." We haven't talked to the lawyer yet, and I haven't had a chance to process my feelings since the funeral just ended. Watching my husband enthusiastically discuss the inheritance, I felt a surge of anger. Believing my words, he shouted, "What? You can't inherit anything. I don't need you anymore. Let's divorce right now." I felt the same way, so I retorted, "Fine, let's do that. You only married me for my father's inheritance in the first place. I'll divorce you." I thrust the prepared divorce papers in front of him. Although he was surprised, he signed them without protest. After signing, my husband left, declaring, "I'll divorce you, who gets zero inheritance, and marry your sister to get the $1 billion." I didn't care and immediately went to the city hall to file the divorce papers. I was finally free from my terrible husband. The very next day, my ex-husband submitted his marriage registration with my sister. A few days later, he called me, still convinced of the story. He yelled, "When are you starting the inheritance procedures? Give Mary her $1 billion already." I had been waiting for him to reach out. I didn't want to contact him after he left our house. I replied in a businesslike tone, "Let's meet at my place this Sunday. I'm preparing for the procedure and waiting for you." Brian was thrilled at the thought of receiving an inheritance and hung up the phone eagerly. I was looking forward to seeing his reaction when he discovered the truth. Over the weekend, Brian and my sister Mary arrived at our parents' house, surprised to find that I had called a lawyer. Brian, trying to stay optimistic, said, "I guess we need a lawyer for inheriting a large sum of money." The lawyer, looking puzzled, began, "There is indeed a matter of inheritance to discuss, but first we need to address a claim for compensation from Julie, your ex-wife, Brian." He presented several photos of Brian leaving Mary's house, clearly dated. The lawyer continued, "These photos prove infidelity prior to the divorce, and you are required to pay compensation." Having overheard Brian discussing the inheritance with Mary, I had asked the lawyer to investigate his infidelity. Brian and Mary had been meeting at Mary's house almost daily, and I managed to gather plenty of evidence. The discussion about inheritance quickly shifted to compensation, leaving both Brian and Mary speechless. Brian, however, quickly regained his composure and retorted, "Compared to the 100 million inheritance, compensation is just a small amount. I'll pay it right away." When the lawyer handed him the compensation claim documents, Brian signed them without hesitation. After confirming this, I told him, "I'll ensure you pay the compensation now that you've signed it, but be happy with Mary, who has zero inheritance." Mary's face went pale at the mention of zero inheritance, and she screamed, "What do you mean my inheritance is zero? I'm supposed to have 100 million. Brian's face turned red with anger as he shouted, "There's no way there's zero inheritance. I won't let you take it all for yourself." The lawyer calmly addressed the frustrated pair. "Mary is the daughter of your late mother from a previous marriage. Since she was not legally adopted by your late father, there is no legal parent-child relationship. Therefore, Mary is not entitled to inherit your father's estate." Turning to Mary, who appeared bewildered, I added, "I understand you might not recall, given that you were only 1 year old when our parents remarried, but I remember it very clearly. I was 6 at the time, and I was thrilled to suddenly have a sister. I never imagined that this sister would end up betraying me by stealing my husband. Our parents, each with young children, thought it best to remarry with the help of mediation. My mother treated me as her own, and my father was exceptionally kind to you. He might have been overly generous because you weren't his biological daughter. Our parents chose not to have you legally adopted to avoid any suspicion that my mother had married my wealthy father for financial reasons. The relatives who frequently suggested marriage proposals to me knew that I was the only one who could inherit my father's estate. If our parents had had a child together, it might have complicated things even further, but they didn't, possibly to avoid such disputes. It became clear that our father continued to support my sister financially after she reached adulthood because he couldn't leave his inheritance to her. Although I am not legally related to my mother due to the lack of formal adoption, it never affected our daily lives. It seemed our parents never told my sister about their remarriages, and she learned the truth only that day. My ex-husband's face turned from red to pale as he grasped the reality of the situation. He signed the documents and was even asked to cover damages after discovering that he wouldn't receive the inheritance he had anticipated from my sister. With a blue face, he asked me, was it all a lie that my sister was supposed to get 10 billion and I nothing? Holding back my laughter, I replied, of course, it was a lie. It was my way of getting back at you for cheating on me. Besides, there's no way Dad's inheritance was worth $10 billion. Even our wealthy father didn't have that kind of fortune. My sister, who had been silent until now, suddenly screamed, I've made a lot of purchases relying on Dad's supposed inheritance. What will happen to the money he used to give me? Will you cover it, big sister? I looked at my frightened sister and said, you have a reliable husband now, so you don't need it anymore, right? Have Brian support you. My sister glanced at my ex-husband, but he shook his head, unable to offer any support. I also made various purchases expecting the inheritance, so I don't have the means to support you. Besides, I have to cover damages myself, so I'm barely managing. With that, my ex-husband suddenly knelt before me, pleading, Julie, I'm sorry. It was my fault. Will you forgive me and take me back? The lawyer, who had been observing, chuckled as he packed up to leave. His earlier arrogance had vanished and he looked rather absurd kneeling on the floor. Following our discussion, my ex-husband and sister left with their heads down, and they soon got divorced. My ex-husband, who had remarried with the hope of inheriting my sister's assets, lost interest when it became clear there was no inheritance. He claimed he couldn't take care of my sister because he had to pay me damages. Since my ex-husband had no property, we agreed that he would pay the damages in installments from his monthly salary, a recommendation from the lawyer to ensure I didn't miss out on anything. Meanwhile, my sister, now without our father's support, continued working part-time, but she struggled to pay off her debts and ultimately filed for bankruptcy. Eventually, she had to leave her apartment, and no one knew where she went. Our father had supported my sister out of love, but his indulgence led to her inability to work seriously. Afterward, a relative attempted to introduce me to another potential marriage partner while I settled into living alone in my childhood home. However, I was preoccupied with a client at the time. Determined not to end up with someone like my ex-husband, I decided that this time, I would find a suitable partner on my own. And I'd love to see your envious face, but I'm not that cruel. So, I'll let it be. It'd probably be awkward for you to see me, so why don't you hide in the bathroom or something? She laughed obnoxiously over the phone, mocking me. I detest this woman more than anyone in the world. No, in the universe. 13 years ago, she stole my husband from me. I'd love to cut ties, but that's difficult because, sadly, this woman is my biological sister. I held the phone to my ear for a moment, then let out a small chuckle after she hung up on me. My name is Ruth, a 37-year-old divorcee. My marriage fell apart in just 6 months, all because of my villainous sister. I have an identical twin sister named Rachel. Even our longtime friends mistake us for each other because we look so much alike. However, despite our similar appearance, our personalities are completely different. I'm the quiet type, while Rachel is active and tends to take charge of things. I excelled in academics, while Rachel shone in sports. Rachel's the type who blurts out whatever she's thinking. How can you wear such unstylish clothes? People are going to think I'm not stylish either since we're twins. That'll suck. As you can see, we don't get along. It wouldn't be so bad if it was just at home, but Rachel always brought trouble. Back in our school days, I often got harassed by girls from other schools on my way home. Hey, stop hitting on my boyfriend. Of course, I didn't even know them. Ah, not again, Rachel. Whenever Rachel found someone she was interested in, she wouldn't hesitate to snatch him away, even if he already had a girlfriend. I blamed the guys too, but Rachel was worse, and I, being mistaken for her, was a victim too. Moreover, she seems to lose interest once she gets the guy, sometimes breaking up in as short as a week. It's unbelievable. Rachel, you need to stop this nonsense. Have you ever thought about how the other girls feel? I'm suffering too. She responded, unattractive women's jealousy is scary. Anyway, your guy John, right? He's so dull. I doubt he'll cheat on you. Don't worry, I have no interest in him. He's not hot at all. She talked in about my boyfriend. This man named John is the despicable ex-husband who dumped me without a second thought. 13 years ago, we got close because we went to the same tutoring center. He was rather quiet and made me feel at ease. His mother was a fortune teller, well known for her accurate readings. She even ran a fortune-telling house. We graduated from the same university and decided to get married 2 years later. I thought I would spend my life with this man, but 6 months after our marriage, John placed the divorce papers in front of me and said, "Please divorce me. I can't take it anymore, and I'm sure you know why." Sitting next to him was my sister Rachel with a smug look on her face. Taken by surprise, I stammered, "Ha! I'm sorry, I don't understand. Did I do something? I don't remember doing anything wrong." John banged his fist on the desk and shouted, "Really? How do you have the audacity? You've been cheating on me. Can you still deny it after seeing this?" On the desk were a few pictures showing a man and a woman entering a hotel together. But to me, it looked like I was being shown pictures of Rachel going into a hotel with some man I didn't know. I didn't understand what my ex-husband was saying at all. The man in the photo must have been just another one of Rachel's flings. No, this is Rachel, not me. At that moment, Rachel burst into tears and sobbed, "Stop this. I can't stand lying to John anymore." John turned to Rachel and said, "It's okay. You're so kind. Thank you. What am I looking at here?" John glared at me and started to spew a fabricated story that was simply unimaginable. According to him, I had been cheating, and to avoid being caught, I was constantly borrowing clothes from Rachel, spending my spare time at a hotel with my lover, and that I was a terrible woman. John had completely believed this ridiculous story that he'd heard from Rachel. "I heard from Rachel that you've always had a bad track record with men. Even when we were dating, you were playing around with several men." I responded to my furious ex-husband, "Are you seriously saying that, John? You've been with me for several years, and you believe a story from my sister who you've only known for half a year. Are you sane? Are you an idiot?" Apparently, he didn't like my calm response because all he could do was glare at me. To my surprise, Rachel had the nerve to hit on John. "You may have the same face, but your personalities are completely different. You're not charming at all." Rachel always listens to my complaints with a smile. She's so patient. I might have married the wrong sister. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Rachel continued to fake her tears, but I could see her grin. Rachel had always been a player when it came to men since she was a student, but ever since she started working, she had changed the type of man she targeted. She now prioritized social status and money over looks, and John, my ex-husband, who worked at a major corporation and came from a moderately wealthy family, was a perfect target. She must have set her eyes on him from the time I introduced him at our wedding. My ex-husband had been completely fooled by my sister's poor acting. I never thought my ex-husband, whom I'd been with for so long, could be this naive, and I could feel my feelings towards him fade away rapidly. "You two are despicable. Do as you please, but never show your face in front of me again." I felt tears welling up but managed to hold them back. I filled out the divorce papers on the spot and threw them at the two of them. Knowing my cunning sister, she and John probably hadn't started a physical relationship yet. Blaming compensation seemed tough. Still, if it meant those two would disappear from my life, I didn't care about the money anymore. When I returned to my parents' house after that, my parents were furious at my sister's behavior and disowned her. When asked about her reaction, she said, "Oh, really? I don't care, but if you're having money trouble, they'll come begging to me." Okay, bye then, making light of even her own parents. I found out from a friend that my ex-husband and my sister got married just 3 months later. I was so stunned I couldn't even cry. I felt nothing at all. For 13 years since then, I haven't seen my sister and her husband, but one day I got a call from a public phone. On my cell phone, I always answer calls for work, so I answered and heard, hello, Ruth. I immediately recognized the voice on the other end of the phone. I don't know how you have the nerve to call me Rachel. At my words, Rachel chuckled and said, are you still holding a grudge? You're always so gloomy, Ruth. But whatever, I have a favor to ask. Without showing any remorse for what happened, she continued, I'm pregnant. Oh, of course, the father is John, who you love so much. Haha. So, I wanted to let our parents know about their first grandchild. They won't listen to me, so you tell them for me. She had the audacity to command me like that, so I retorted, what are you so cheery about when you've been disowned? But she just laughed it off. How many years do you think it's been? 13 years. I think you're the only one who still holds a grudge. You're probably still living alone at our parents' house, am I right? I'm saying that I'll be the one to give them a grandchild instead of you. She was always the best at irritating people. I'd love to see your envious face, but I'll spare you because it's too pathetic. It'll be awkward when you see me, so why don't you hide in the bathroom or something? She said, laughing out loud while I remained silent. Then she hung up abruptly after saying she would come over on the weekend. I kept the phone to my ear for a while after the call ended and chuckled. That weekend, as I was relaxing in the backyard, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw a blocked number. It was probably my sister. I answered the phone, already annoyed. Hey, unblock me already. I snapped back, what's wrong with blocking someone I don't want to receive calls from? That's what call blocking is for. Oh, maybe you don't understand because you're stupid. Haha. I laughed sarcastically. I heard something break, perhaps she was irritated. I've come all this way. Why is nobody home? I told you I'd come today, didn't I? Huh? You were serious. I thought you were joking. Besides, you hung up before I could tell you I don't live there anymore. Judging by my sister's enraged and slightly shaky voice, it seemed she was standing in front of the house we used to live in. However, none of us lived there anymore. She was making so much noise and causing such a commotion that it was likely to be a nuisance to the neighbors. So I gave her my current address and hung up the phone. After waiting for about an hour, the doorbell rang. There stood a sullen-faced Rachel and John, my ex-husband. The first thing she blurted out was, you got some nerve. And what is this place? Why on earth would someone like you be living in such a nice apartment? She glared at me, her eyes bloodshot with anger. It's no surprise my sister was shocked. This place is relatively new and located in a good area. The rent isn't cheap either. While it may not be a luxury high-rise, it's a pretty decent property. Ignoring the worked-up Rachel, I said, the neighbors won't like all this noise. Why don't you come inside? Upon showing her into the room, she seemed taken aback by its size. Seeing her frustrated face, I couldn't help but smirk. Our mother, who I live with, was sitting on the couch silently observing my sister. Well, you said you had something to discuss. I don't mind at all. But if I'm in the way, should I hide in the bathroom or something? I remarked sarcastically. Never mind, I'm good, Rachel snapped back. She moved closer to her mother and nervously said, Hi, Mom. Long time no see. I'm pregnant. That's why today we wanted to discuss if it's possible for John and me to stay here for a while. At my sister's audacious request, I nearly burst into laughter, blurting out, Wait, you want me to live with you guys? No way. Have you forgotten what you did to me in the past? Absolutely not. Cutting me off, Rachel said, Ruth, just shut up. This house is still under Dad's name, right? You can't even get remarried and you're still leeching off our parents. How pathetic for a single woman like you. Then she added, Great job taking care of our folks. From now on, John and I will live here and take care of them. So can you leave? Oh, where's Dad? Is he at work? After seeing my sister speaking with a smug grin, I had reached my limit. However, it was our mother who spoke up first. She said quietly, Dad's gone. He passed away. Mom only muttered those few words. My parents were very serious people and had always apologized to me about my divorce 13 years ago despite it all being Rachel's fault. My father especially used to say, I should have. Maybe it was my fault for not raising her better. I'm sorry, Ruth. I'm really sorry. He became increasingly depressed to the point where he found it hard to continue working. At that time, both of my parents were in their early 50s and we were surviving on my income and Mom's part-time job. A while later, my father was diagnosed with cancer and passed away 10 years ago. Just before he died, he said, Don't tell Rachel anything. I don't think I'll make it to heaven if she comes to my funeral. Just as he said, Mom and I didn't contact my sister Rachel. We moved into this house about 5 years ago because Mom had injured her leg due to overworking. We considered renovating our old house, but it was built on top of a hill, and we thought it would be too hard for Mom to walk up the hill. Since we started living in this accessible home, Mom said her legs have been feeling much better. I tried to speak calmly, but the thought of our late dad made me want to burst out crying. It must have been the same for Mom, as there were tears in her eyes. Rachel's reaction to my words was, in a sense, predictable. Too little, too late. Besides, it's not my fault Dad got sick. In fact, you're living in such a nice place now because of Dad's inheritance, right? That's not fair. What about my share? Didn't I have the right to inherit? She blurted out such nonsense. Without missing a beat, Mom shot back, inheritance. There's no such thing. You only came to us when you were in trouble for doing stupid things before your marriage. How many times do you think we paid alimony because you messed around with a married man? Live with you? Never. You must be joking. Don't be ridiculous. It was the first time both Rachel and I had seen Mom so enraged. Sensing the tension, Rachel fell silent. Then John, who had been quiet like a puppet until now, said, Rachel, you've been deceiving me, haven't you? Ever since I married you, my life's been a mess. You're a reckless spender. You don't do any housework. I had the opportunity to meet some guys who graduated from the same high school as you, and they all said I was blind to marry you. I nearly burst out laughing at my ex-husband's words. He's quite something to have put up with her for 13 years. Moreover, when he approached me, he said, Ruth, I've been regretting our divorce. Do you want to start over? Let's let bygones be bygones. When he tried to touch me softly, I felt a chill run down my spine. No way. Please let bygones be bygones. Who does he think he is? Is he stupid? It's not his place to say that. Just as I was about to dodge him, the door to the next room burst open. Could you not touch her with your dirty hands, please? A man suddenly appeared, and both were taken aback, ignoring Rachel, who murmured, Who is he? I said, I told you to stay hidden because I didn't want to involve you. At my words, he replied, I couldn't stand it when he tried to touch you, Ruth. Besides, I think having a third party will help the discussion. Don't you think? Okay. This is my husband, Alex. And Tony, come here. This is our son, Tony. He's 8 years old. I called out to Tony, who had been peeping from behind the door. He had probably overheard some of the argument, and he was now glaring at Rachel and her husband. Ha! You're remarried. Unbelievable. Rachel's shock was palpable, and John looked equally stunned, his mouth hanging open. Why wouldn't I be? I replied, my tone laced with sarcasm. It's been 13 years. You'd think people would move on. It's surprising that despite all this time, you both haven't changed a bit. But you do look like you've aged quite a lot. Their faces flushed with anger at my words. I met Alex shortly after my father passed away. We were colleagues, and one day he asked me out. When I initially turned him down, saying I was a divorcee, he responded, Does being divorced mean you can't remarry? He asked me out again, and we were married a year later. Tony was born the following year. Alex treats my mother with great kindness and doesn't mind us living together. My in-laws, who live with Alex's brother and his wife, have assured me, we're glad you're here for Alex. Alex was the one who suggested we move to our current house, concerned about my mother's mobility. Turning to the stunned Rachel and John, I said, My mother and I are living our lives here. Please don't disrupt us. And Rachel, you mentioned you're pregnant. How far along are you? From their flustered responses, it became clear that Rachel was likely lying about the pregnancy. I had been married to John for only 6 months and never got pregnant, which often drew snide comments from my former mother-in-law. If Rachel isn't pregnant, then it's probably another one of her fabrications. Rachel seemed to be managing well with her difficult mother-in-law. Unable to endure the harsh glares from my family, they quickly left. I'd heard stories, but is she really your sister? She looks like you, but her character. Anyway, it's settled for now, Alex said with a wry smile, to which I responded with a thin smile of my own. Really? That evening, the doorbell rang incessantly. I glanced at the monitor and sighed. They're back, I muttered. When I opened the door, there stood Rachel and John, their faces ashen. We need help. Can you lend us some money? They pleaded, kneeling in desperation. My husband looked confused, but my mother and I were less sympathetic. Earlier in the day, while we were waiting for Rachel's call, Mom had received a call from one of my deceased father's friends, who now rents our old home. When I returned home, I was shocked to find the garden in disarray. Flower buds were trampled, and the windows were cracked. Security footage revealed the culprits, Rachel and John. Rachel, visibly enraged, had stomped on the flower beds and thrown stones at the windows. On a phone call with me, Mom had given Rachel's contact information to Dad's friend, which only fueled Rachel's anger further. To her dismay, she turned out to be the daughter who had caused so much grief to her father over the years. The damaged garden contained rare, hard-to-grow flowers, and they would likely demand compensation. Given their evident financial struggles, I had anticipated they might return. Their audacity was impressive, but not entirely surprising. "I can offer you some money, but there's one condition," I said as I watched them leave, their shoulders hunched in defeat. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. They were holding a written pledge I had just made them sign, agreeing to never approach me again in exchange for my responsibility for the incident. Despite Rachel being my sister, it's hard to sever ties completely. I expect she might use her connections or authorities to try and reach me again. If that happens, I'm prepared. I have the audio recordings I secretly made 13 years ago as evidence. I have no intention of forgiving Rachel and John, not now or ever. Later, I learned from a friend that my ex-husband had left his high-paying job at the corporation right after our divorce. He took up a position at a fortune-telling establishment run by my former mother-in-law. The job came with a generous salary due to their family connection, and he and Rachel had been living comfortably. However, a few months ago, my former mother-in-law passed away suddenly. Lacking any skill in fortune-telling, my ex-husband took over the business, but it soon failed. Desperate, the couple tried to deceive the loyal customers by claiming that a bracelet they were selling was a cherished heirloom from the late mother. When their deceit was exposed by a whistleblower, the victims formed a group and began demanding justice. Rachel and John, now without a home or source of income, turned to me for help. Their audacity was infuriating. However, with the police involved, it was clear that their day of reckoning was near. Soon after, we relocated due to Alex's job transfer. Mom, initially hesitant, asked, "Can I really come along?" To which Alex responded with a warm laugh, "Of course. You're a vital part of our family. Even if you tried to resist, I'd carry you over my shoulder and bring you with us." Alex's playful remark brought tears of gratitude to Mom's eyes. "Grandma, you're crying again?" Tony said, offering her a Kleenex. Despite his concern, he managed to smile. Watching my family, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the happiness and support we shared.